Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. It's another week later. I'm another week older. My weekend was pretty quiet. I sat and putzed around with my The Sims 4, of course, because they put out a big update, and time they do, they break every mod in existence and shutter the entire game. But mostly, kind of almost got things fixed, but spent my weekend dealing with that. It's actually a sunny day for a change. It's been sunny for many days. It's been blistering hot and humid, which is normal. I do have my coffee. It's lukewarm though, and we're going to get into it because wow, it was a week. We can't go a week with any kind of just mundaneness, can we now, Thundero? Shan't be
No,
allowed.
no, we shan't be doing that.
No,
Shan't be having it.
no, no, none of that. So we got stuff to get into today for sure, and one of which is one of my great loves actually, but
Oh,
and of course marred and mocked, and of course I'm talking about Dungeons and Dragons. They've
okay.
went and they've been doing nonsense for quite a while, Fundera, but now they've gotten rid of all racial identities because racism. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're globalists. Yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
yep.
But that doesn't matter. The good thing about D&D and all those other games like it that were inspired by it, you can do whatever the hell you want to do. But
The
it's
other
not just.
great thing about D&D is they've
Yeah.
completely killed their brand so much
Hmm.
that most of the serious people really don't even play it anymore. Play other stuff now because I've talked to multiple people and they all
Yeah.
say, yeah, I have no interest. They've just
Yeah.
murdered their own brand.
Well,
Completely
there's a
murdered it.
lot of other systems. I mean, Gygax and Arnson inspired the world. Now, I know some people go to get into the Bronstein stuff, and fair enough, but they brought it to the world now. Knock it off. It's like I'm not saying Gerald Ford invented the car, but I am telling you he gave it to the world.
Yep.
So, yeah. So, but that another great love. I don't know if you know this about me, but I know it's hard to believe being a Sasquatch and all. But I was a pretty good fencer,
Yeah.
Olympic level even. Now, to be fair,
Interesting.
at that time, America was like one of the worst Olympic fencing teams in the world. You know, and this is before the Asians got involved, so it was the French and the Germans and the English dominated it. America wasn't very good at all. They've changed the rules completely now, and I think for the better. And of course, now the Asians just own it. Hand-eye coordination stuff and all that. But
Right.
yeah, no, I've always been very serious about the Olympics, and they've done their best to burn that away. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I can't say I'm not happy about it, to be honest with you.
Well,
The
it
Olympic
is sad.
the Olympic Committee has always been cringe my entire life. They've been nothing but globalist cocksuckers since probably day one, but definitely in the last 20 or 30 years. So watching them burn any goodwill they had with decent normal folk, uh, you love to see it. You love to see it because these people don't deserve respect. They don't deserve to be treated decently. They deserve mockery, shame, and scorn,
Mhm.
which is exactly what they think of Christians, apparently. Very
Well,
obviously.
apparently, half the planet. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Because one thing that they seem to have forgotten is that those what do they call them? Uh, Ragheads. What's the other name they have for 'em? I probably can't say that one on YouTube. But we call them Muslims. Yeah, I don't think they seem to understand that that old baby Jeebus is their number two prophet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. They take him a little. In fact,
a little bit.
in Islam, he is Jesus Christ. He is still the Christ in Islam.
He is.
They just don't call him the Son of God
Right.
or God.
Right.
He's just the
but
Christ.
very important one. And of course,
Yep.
people who understand the history and the timeline of things understand that Muhammad is just the name they had for Yeshua. But we won't get into that. But nevertheless, so you're literally pissing off half the planet, half
Yeah.
the planet. Now, to be fair, we've seen a lot of weirdness in Europe over the past, well, forever. And a lot of things we had opening of new tunnels, and they always have these weird satanic rituals, and we see a lot of it. People kind of talk about Bohemian Grove a lot, and the fact that that's a lot of satanic Moloch worshiping, or Baal, be more accurate, for our Jewish viewers. Um, uh, and fair enough. America does have Saturnists all over the place. They exist. But Europe kind of, says "hold my beer" all the time, to us. And they also look down on
Mm.
us and mock us and have no respect for us and hate us. But it's hard to be king. It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Someone always has to wear the crown.
that's true. Heavy is it upon the bearer's brow. Uh, you know, but I think they might have gone a little too far, a little bit too far. Would you like
Yes.
to get into it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about the Olympics. Now, my question for you and all the viewers out there, and I need to go hit the like and share before I do anything, which I didn't even do this. So let me go ahead and do this. Do your job, God.
Mm.
Sometimes, right?
This
Sometimes.
guy, I tell you.
Unbelievable. All right, let me go over here and get it up. But now the Olympic Games, when I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, what is it regarding? Do you know? Anybody? What's it about?
Enlighten.
Enlighten you. Well, it's supposed to be about the laying down of arms and coming
Ah, yeah.
together, right? To in peace, to display the greatest of our athletic pursuits in the eyes of God, to show solidarity amongst each other. Now, keep in mind, this was created by a bunch of people that didn't even have a country. They were just like a trade league, and all that kind of stuff, to be fair, right? But nevertheless, it was about good stuff, good points, good things, sport, peace,
Yeah.
you know, those old chestnuts. But what is it today, would you think?
Apparently, transsexuals and the mockery of the world's largest religion. That
Right.
seems to be. I mean, that's what they presented first, right out of the gate. So I would assume that's what they're about.
hmm
I
Now,
mean, maybe I'm an asshole. Maybe that's not. Maybe when you're presenting something as an opening ceremony, maybe that doesn't mean, hey, this is what we're about in literally every other context in the history of the fucking world. Or maybe when these people tell you what they are, we should believe them
yeah,
and
maybe you
stop
should.
pretending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The olive branch of good sportsmanship between brothers and sister, well, brothers originally, and
Yeah.
God. Do keep in mind the olive branch is between the gods and man. That's
That's right.
why they use the laurel. Now, to be fair, under Roman time, the laurel became something of slightly different meaning. Fair enough. But those Grecians, it is weird that it was the Grecians that formed Rome, but yet they decided to call the Hellenic League Greece.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
That is strange.
It is weird. But nevertheless, let's get into it. Let's talk about this mockery that has upset so many people, and I don't blame them.
Yeah. Oh, it's perverse
I don't blame them.
in more ways than one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first thing I want to start out with here is, I've often on this channel compared France and China, because they are comparable in many, many ways. They can't stand but make noise and rebut anything you say. They invented everything, right?
That's right.
They
Right.
every they are the center of the God's creation. They are the ones who invented every little bit of piece of technology. And of course, even though they had the greatest opportunity in the world to literally make the Eiffel Tower the torch, how epic that would have been, right?
Hmm.
That would have been epic. No, no, no. They
Yeah.
decided to use a balloon, which is kind of interesting to look at. It's kind of going after this particular one here, but it's stating at the same time that France invented air balloon flying. Now,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, that's been around for thousands of years, there, buddy. Yeah, you're nowhere
we
near.
literally have whole murals of balloon paintings
Right,
all over the all over the
all
world.
over the
They've
world.
been doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But but the French invented it, of course. So I had to point
That's
this
right.
out first. It was an interesting visual, but of course, the French being the French, they are wrong as usual. I really feel it was such a huge missed opportunity not to use the Eiffel Tower, right?
Yeah.
And of course, they had to have that diversity at the end, make sure the two people taking up the torch were a black guy and a black lady. Not saying that they don't deserve it. They look like they were athletes, so cool. At least they were athletes. But we had others, that weren't. We had a bunch of flag torch bearers. We had three drag queens on the day of.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Because
That's what the Olympics is all about.
diversity. No, this is not an athlete, by the way.
No.
Yeah, lots of tattoos. Lots of tattoos. Yeah, and the thing is with the Olympics, modern Olympics anyway, it's very much a family event, right? It is supposed to be about peace, and keep in mind the French and the English are the ones that re-kicked it off, and they had those initial ideas, brotherhood and sisterhood coming together. Keep in mind that the Olympic Games are way stricter than you would find in a pro setting. For instance, I just noticed the other day I was watching Germany versus Japan, opening day, I think it was. And Germany, was able to just get it a basketball game. We're just able to win it. Japanese did a pretty good job. But then again, on day one, the Japanese lost to the Germans many times. It was weird.
Yeah.
Uh, but um, but in that game, you had a ref, a boy, his shirt, his jersey had become untucked from his trousers or his, boxers or whatever they call these short things that they wear. And he looked at him. He chastised him with wagging fingers, and motioned for him to tuck it in, and the boy did. Right. This is the Olympic Games. You would never see a NBA ref chastise a player for his shirt being out.
Right.
Right. Uh, the games are strict. They're very strict. They're strict to be wholesome, to represent sportsmen, gentlemen, and ladies, in all regards. They're overly strict. Even their drug policies are overly strict outside professional sports. There are certain drugs that are just universally, struck down, right? But there's other things that people do that in pro sports are like, yeah, well, it's not a big deal. But in the Olympics, it is. It's very strict because we have to have fair sportsmanship. We have to represent ourselves in a positive, gentleman and lady way, and we need to represent uh, you know, a family thing so people could come and watch. Now, when I was young, the Olympics were such a big deal. We actually Winter Olympics, of course. They would play them in the classroom, right? Elementary school and stuff like that. We would see the Olympics in school when I was a kid. That's not happening now, I think.
Right.
Hmm.
No, I
Anyway,
doubt it. I'd be very surprised if they are, because you see, the Olympics inspires a little bit of nationalism, a little bit of patriotism, and they can't have that. Can't be having that
I
in
suppose so. Yeah.
communist controlled schools.
Now, to be fair, I mention this because it's been mentioned a lot. Do I really care that three drag queen transgenders, whatever they are, carry the torch? No. There's all kind of celebrities and weird people that carry torches, and they usually often you can see stretches where they're literally walk with a torch for like 20 meters, 20, it's gonna be like 50 feet, and then pass it off to somebody else because they want to get a lot of people the honor to carry it. They want the photo op of the person carrying it. Do I really care? Not really. No, I don't really care. Because there's all kind of people I'm sure far more despicable, and I don't even know if this person is despicable. They might be just a drag queen. They used to be fun.
Um, you say so. I don't
Well,
know.
no, I've
I see
seen
a
it
lot of.
was done
I
tongue in
see
cheek.
too many of them. Too many of them just smiling and nodding. Just nonsense.
Maybe fair enough. That is fair enough. But I mean, saying it doesn't really get my cockles up is my point. However, our dear old Olympics here. Oh God, you people really missed opportunity not to put the fire on top of that. Morons. But we did have, you know, another flag bearer. That's probably a little bit more controversial. Now, I've seen some people comparing this to George Washington crossing the Delaware, and they're morons. The people that are praising this and think it's great with old LeBron James carrying the flag, you seem to have an extremely short memory because this right here is an America hater. This is a
Yeah.
pro China shill right here. This is a kneeling for the national anthem asshole. That's who LeBron James is. How dare he
Yeah.
even touch that flag? Fuck this guy. Am I clear? I think I'm clear. But I've seen a lot of idiots praising and think it's amazing. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. This guy's an asshole. He hates the country. He's such a moron that he tries to act smart by reading books that are upside down. Would
Were
you
you
like to?
expecting me to disagree at all? Because no, LeBron's an idiot.
He's an
LeBron
idiot.
has only been able to succeed at the level he has because he's an actual human genetic freak. He is. He's
Well,
a freak of nature.
he's a great basketball
He
player.
is physically better than probably every other man, especially in his field.
Yeah.
Just now, his baseline is higher than everybody else. If he was a smart, hard worker, he would be the greatest basketball player of all time. But he's not.
No.
Because he's so good and so much better than other people, he doesn't push himself. If he had the work ethic of a Kobe Bryant, for instance, the man would be it wouldn't even be close. It
Maybe.
wouldn't even be close. He'd blow them
Yeah.
all out of the water on the stat book anyway.
Yeah, right.
Um,
It seems all the 80s and 90s basketball players are very you know defiant on the fact that he is actually very good at all. They said if he played in their league, he would be nothing. Now I don't know if that's true or cope. I don't. But I don't care. He's a great basketball player, and I have no interest in taking that away from him. But he shouldn't be carrying the American flag representing the Americans. He shouldn't be doing that. No, he gave that away when he decided to kneel for the national anthem to sell himself to China for money as if he didn't have enough already.
yes,
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah,
I think there's a million other people you could pick, athletes, pro athletes, even in America, that would have been better. Many of them would have also been black because I mean that's wild. Uh, but they just no. It's the Olympics, especially the ceremony of it, has become a humiliation ritual for anybody who isn't part of the on their team. I just saw earlier that apparently some surfers, some Brazilian surfers,
yeah,
had a bunch of boards made with the what's that called, the Christ the Redeemer statue on them,
yeah.
and they told them they're not allowed to use them because they got Christ the Redeemer on them.
Which
The
is
most
weird.
probably the most famous statue of Jesus Christ on earth,
Yep,
and probably the most important landmark in all of Brazil,
sure.
and they're not allowed to use it because it might offend somebody. Who's it going to
But
offend?
but
No
yet,
Muslim's going to be offended.
if you
Not a
have the
single one.
if you have the right politic, you
Yeah,
can protest.
that's correct.
Right? We see it
And he
all
was
over
they
the
weren't even
place.
doing it to protest. It was
No, they
just
were just
because they're from
representing
Brazil.
Brazil. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, no, the Olympics have become crazy political. Not saying there hasn't been politics in protesting in the past. There have been, but
Yeah.
and I think I even popped in an article regarding that. Um,
Are you okay? Oh,
yeah, I'm okay.
he's there. He's
Anyway,
back.
I'm back.
He lives.
But let's just carry on. Yeah.
Let us. Yes, this. Now they're coming out. Have you seen this, Chester? Now they're claiming, no, 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 no. This wasn't the Last Supper. It
Uh-huh.
was a Dionysus festival. Shut
No,
the fuck up.
no,
You're not.
uh,
Who do you think you're lying to right now?
no.
Like everybody sees you. You have a halo on your head,
Yeah.
and you're in the middle.
Well,
Obviously, that's supposed to be Jesus.
I'm going to demonstrate it here in a second. Now, this may well be Bacchus, sitting on the table right here in his nakedness, and his blueness, which is kind of interesting.
Which,
It's rather
by the
Indian in
way,
it.
is even more blasphemous to Jesus in Christianity. But go ahead.
Well, a lot of these lefties do keep in mind they think that
And Judaism, by the way. They were celebrating a Jewish high holiday, the Jewish high holiday of Passover. That's what the Last Supper is.
yeah,
So they
but
basically just instilled a Greek demon into the pure paganism into into this holy symbol, and then did it with a bunch of trannies. And as we know, transsexualism, transvestites, whatever you want to call it, that is what the dark gods always identify as. The evil gods throughout history, Moloch and them, were transsexual.
well,
They
hermaphroditic
were
would be the word.
yes,
But
same
yes,
difference.
you're right.
Same
No, you're
difference.
right. Because they were supposed to, in ancient times, it was simply, two birds, one stone, right? So you have a statue that has a male and female aspect, the mother and the father of whatever
Yep.
specific thing you were praying about, weather or blight or pregnancy or whatever. It was just simply, I think, ultimately it was convenience
Yep.
initially, and we know how that goes. But for them sitting here trying to say no, it was for diversity, it wasn't Last Supper. It's all nonsense. And let me
Yeah.
give this isn't the picture that this was just wow, really. For the Olympics, there's a time and place for this. There's plenty of places you can do this where I'm not going to get upset with you at all. I might think you're a moron, but I'm not going to get mad at you. There's a lot of places, theater, all kind of things you can do this, and it's none of my business really. However, this is the
Yeah.
Olympic Games,
That's right.
and to just kind of smash that in the face, here is our original snapshot. Now, keep in
Yeah.
mind they kicked this off. This was kicking it off, right?
Arguably the most influential in European history piece of art ever made, right there, because everybody
Sure,
knows it immediately.
sure.
It's like the Mona Lisa. You instantly know what it is. And they knew what they were.
They know
They knew what they
exactly
were.
what
This
they're
wasn't.
doing.
No, it wasn't an oopsie. This wasn't. Oh, we misunderstood. You no. You understood
Well,
exactly what you.
there are some more telling things here than, and I'm going to explain it to you here than first meets the eye. At first, you see there's a bunch of homosexuals and maybe a fat girl. The one in the middle might be a girl. I know the child is. But did you notice the child?
Yeah.
Okay, now did you pay attention to who is representing whom? This is interesting to
Yeah.
me
That isn't
because, well, we know who Jesus is. That's easy. It's the fat chick,
right.
right? And why is Jesus a fat chick about to drop some nasty scratches? I don't know. But I do know some of the other figures here that are being brought up, and I found a little slide to help us out.
There
Now,
it is. Look at it.
so what do we got here? We got Jesus next to him. The two standing are Peter and John. Interesting. All right. Let's see over here. Of course, Andrew, James the Younger, and Bartholomew on this side of the table. So we have these guys. This guy has moved. This snapshot wasn't good. He was originally over here next to the giant bearded transgender.
Yep.
But so that's who we got here. Let's take a look at the other side of the table. We have Thomas and James. Interesting that James looks like the bewitched mother, and we got a black dude here to represent our Thomas, our doubting Thomas, right? Keep that in mind. Who is our very one front and center? A lot of the choreography was centered around Beardy, which of course they were trying to shock. So of course it is. So who is that? Who is the third one here? Oh, it's James. Interesting.
Hmm.
Philip is walking, and then we have Matthew, Simon, and of course Thaddeus on the other side. Are one of the hymns walking over here, and of course you got the black dude representing Simon the Zealot, right? Which is interesting. They give
Yep.
that to a black dude who was I don't know what he was doing, but he was weird. However, I've left one out. The little girl. Who do you think she's representing?
It's a good question.
Oh, I know who she's representing. Judas
I mean,
Iscariot.
yeah, that's who I was gonna guess, Judas,
It is
which
Judas.
is interesting
Yeah.
that they pick
Why?
a little girl.
Why? Why is a child and we have two people here that it seem to be maybe three who are actually within their gender, supposedly, although they all seem to be acting gay. Therefore, the implication is the little girl is also a homosexual. But why choose a child to represent Judas Iscariot? Is this simply the mind of the homosexual and that children are disgusting and evil? Or is this a little bit more planned out? Did these morons actually plan out this entire show, or were they just hired to do a job? What would you say?
Um, that's a good question. I don't know.
I'd say they were
There did.
hired. Yeah.
It's probably maybe a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, but mostly they were just hired to do the job. Because usually when you do these sorts of things, especially if you're front and center like this, you're going to be able to have a lot of input,
Yep.
right? So it's probably a little bit of both.
Well, I think
Um,
it's mainly coming from the IOC, and the IOC is a UN directive. The UN directives and all their departments are absolutely foul and disgusting, all of them. To be
yeah,
fair, we should shut down the United Nations. Do keep in mind the reason we had a League of Nations which collapsed, and then we created the United Nations, oddly enough, to protect the Jews and the forming of Israel. Now, of course, they're trying to make them illegal and kick them out of Israel. It's quite interesting how the UN has shifted. But all of those things, even something as benign as UNICEF, it's corrupt as hell. And it's full of this symbolism, this homosexuality, this Saturnism or Satanism, if you prefer.
right.
And it's all over the place. And I would guess, this is my guess, and it's an assumption, that the reason why a little child is representing Judas is because one of their goals, keep in mind they have four stated, oh, there's more, but there are four stated goals: reduce the world population by a lot, one global government, one global currency, and one global religion, right? That's their goal of these globalists, which are, they're of course coming out of the Bilderberg Group and their allies, which are just bankers, right? And the UN is completely under their thumb, right? And especially the IOC. We've seen the nonsense they pulled off. They've pulled off over the decades here. But I think the little girl, the child, is representing the fact that we don't need no damn children. The children are the betrayer of the environment, the betrayer of the green agenda, because they're born.
Well, see, now that's interesting, Chester, that you go to that place because the opening shot of what is supposedly by Marie Antoinette in the red dress in the palace, um, there is a metaphor, we'll call it, in certain circles, futurist circles especially, called the Red Queen. You heard of the Red Queen? The Red Queen represents a cycle of destruction.
Yeah,
The Red Queen comes and deals the
that's why
killing blow
Biohazard used it.
to a
Yeah.
decadent, yeah, to a decadent civilization. Um, it's very interesting to me that that's what you just said. It's about that he's supposed to represent betrayal or the betrayer, that the thing that is the problem.
Yeah, the
Um,
child.
and
Yeah.
then they have a image of a headless Red Queen in a palace. Like they could have put her in any color in the world, but they picked red as a motherfucker. You don't
Oh,
get
yeah.
redder than
Oh,
that
the whole
dress.
building they
That
made
was
red. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. That
Yeah.
was intentional because these people, here's what their actual belief is. It's not even so much in Satan or Lucifer or Saturn. It's not even so much that. Their belief is that they can stop and overcome the natural laws of God. They believe they have beaten consequences for their actions. They think this. This is what they believe. And that's what that represents. In the betrayal, like you're talking about with the child, the children are the problem. They're in the way, you see, because they're not going to let them have their utopia. These people actually believe they have stopped and defeated and overcome the forces of the universe, like entropy and the cycles that cause destruction and chaos
Which is
just for
clearly not
rebirth.
true.
They
Ano
think they have stopped the wildfire, Chester, because everything's so overgrown and decadent and excess. All that means is the Red Queen is just waiting. And as soon as you've had enough, she's going to come and start the wildfire and
right.
burn you all away so that the new soil can be nice and fertile
Mhm.
so that whatever comes after can grow. Because
Right.
she's done it before, the
Many
metaphor.
times, yeah.
It's happened many times where
Sure.
people got all up in their shit and they thought they were untouchable, and then oops,
Well, to be
whoopsie.
fair, it's usually a space rock or a volcano, but you know,
Listen, it
that
starts
causes it.
wildfires.
It causes trouble. Uh, but but yeah, no, I thought it was very interesting. The child. Now, keep in mind, a lot of these, Saturnists or whatever they call themselves, are ultimately are we see the Moloch symbolism everywhere, right?
Yep.
Across all continents. And I don't know that it's a straight continuation of Moloch. Some people make that conspiracy that Moloch and the cult of Moloch or Baal or whatever never went away, right?
Right.
And it's just most modern incarnation of an unbroken line. I don't know that that's true. But I do know that they display a lot of Moloch worship. And keep in mind, one of the big things about Moloch was the sacrificing of children to a
That's correct.
fiery statue to be burned alive. Just keep that in mind,
Yep.
right? But yeah, the thing is, while everyone was screaming about the trainees, particularly the bearded one, and I have to say, dude, you do you, but boy, you got a slick look going on. It's weird and creepy, but it's perfect. It's super slick in its creepiness. I was like, you go, dude. Congratulations. The rest of you do better. Okay, but especially the fat one here, lose, a little bit of diet. You'd be able to do more in life. A little bit. Yeah. I know. I never this big, but I was fat. I get it. I know. But you lose weight,
Food
you can
tastes
move
good.
around a lot better, you feel better, you can jump things. Well, you can get, more than an inch off the ground. It's good for you. But the little kid is the thing I was paying attention to the whole time, dude. Was that little kid? Because I was like, yeah, I get it, and I know because I'm a weirdo, right? And I have historical knowledge etched in my brain, you know. So as soon as I saw her, I knew she was in the seat of Judas. I knew it immediately, right?
Yep.
I was like,
Yep.
very, very interesting. And just so you know, just to kind of put this up here with our rings, do keep in mind these rings represent the 5 inhabited continents, right?
Yes.
And I do find it very, very interesting. Would you like to guess what the blue is?
I have no idea what is the.
What would you guess? Which continent, inhabited continent, would the blue be, you think?
Hmm. I mean, I would assume this is how I would do it. I would assume that it's Europe,
Yeah, that's how
strictly
you would
because it's the
think.
first. It's the
Y-
first, right in
Yeah,
the chain here,
it's
and that's where
Africa.
the Olympics comes from. Huh?
Mm,
The least watery continent? That doesn't even
yeah.
make sense.
The black one represents the North and South America. We don't even get to be separated. We're just the North and South. It shows you European thinking, right? The red one
Mm,
represents Oceanus, oddly enough, and then you have Europe and I forget what the other one is.
Australia?
No, Oceanus is the red one.
Oh,
Asia,
Asia?
Asia. Yeah,
The one you live in?
yeah. It's interesting choice of colors, isn't it?
Yeah, that is very dumb,
Yeah.
actually. If you're gonna do Oceanus, then why wouldn't that not be blue? Like, the blue ocean.
Mhm. And there is another one moving. If you go watch the video, you can see this is not a good snapshot. They all start perfectly in position. I just chose this for the
Yep.
comparison. But if you go back and watch it, they're all in perfect position. Of course, these ones here have not moved. The little girl is still in her place. And do keep in mind, she was featured throughout the entire routine, right?
Right.
They always made sure she was in a position that she was in your eyes. Where the other ones are moving, doing stuff, dancing, they're not always in your vision because the camera's panning. There's a lot. Well, we have 13 people here, right? But the little girl, they always make sure she's moving to be in your eye. She is the focus of the routine. She is the focus of the whole thing. She is. And really, what you need
Well,
to figure out is why. What what's
aside
the
from
point?
the obvious symbolism they were going for here, can anyone that's normie brained explain to me what any of this has to do with France?
Well, they were the
Any?
sword of the Catholic seat, weren't they?
No, no. I mean, like, why? Let's say it's not. They're telling the truth. They weren't acting, even though they're lying. But let's pretend. Let's go to
Obviously,
pretend
I
land
think. Yeah.
and say that this had nothing to do with this particular photo. And then what does this have? What does a feast to Dionysus have to do with France? What does any of this symbolism or all of these drag queens have to do with France? In what way is any of this French? France has its own culture. It has a very vibrant one. It's the only thing it has that's of note. What
Fair.
is this?
Yeah, no, it
What is
doesn't really fit them. But obviously, it's some manner of spell. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people might laugh when I say this, but they do it all the time. They cast their
Yep,
spells. Now, you might say you don't believe in magic. Fine, they do. Who cares
that's
what
right.
you think? These people are the ones that are in charge and have the money, and they believe in magic. They do. They really, really do, guys. There's been many examples. I think that one of the more famous ones in America was like White Sox or Cubs or some baseball team in America that just did nothing but lose. And they literally put, during a live broadcast of the baseball game, they literally put a spell on the screen to try to improve their luck. They literally did this, right? It
Yep.
happens all the time. That's why I say with a lot of stuff, it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you believe. It's irrelevant. What do they believe? Because that's who we're talking about. We're not talking about you. We're talking about them. What do they believe? This is important. Now, does every single solitary person who's attached to the Saturnal movement, which is quite large by these days,
Yep.
are they all true believers? Of course not. Of course they're not. But the bosses, the people who have authority, the ones that are in charge, most certainly do. They do believe in magic. And this was a ritual, a spell for sure. Now, I have to say, one thing I got to give France, at least your gays are a little bit better looking. This guy over here, oh, how glorious and wonderful you are. Yeah, he knows it too. He's got his little shorty shorts on and his jacket. Spectacular. Wonderful. Fat girl, lose some weight. This one in the back is cute. I don't know if it's a dude. It probably is a dude, but it's a cute dude. This one over here in the little purple thingy. Yeah. Well, now I say that because American ones are pretty damn ugly. Can't we
Yep.
have a better set of trannies, please?
Apparently not.
God, we're America. We should do everything better. Can you sense my
I would rather we
sarcasm?
didn't. I I'd be okay with losing this one. We could take this L.
Mm. we take this out. But I mean, honestly, we do usually see a lot of really, really ugly transgenders and gays doing stuff. But at least they went and found some somewhat normal, attractive humans to do it. I don't know. I noticed that. I was like, wow, they're not hideously ugly. A couple of them are. But
Yes.
mainly, these guys are all dancers anyway. That's what they are. They're hired dancers. That's what I mean. They had nothing to do with creating this. They were just doing their job. And some of them, Beardy McBeardison over here, are true believers for sure. But in
Hmm.
general, I think it was just a bunch of hired dancers to do a routine. But yeah, yep, yep, mm-hmm, yep.
It was a big oops. They never intended to offend or insult
No,
Christians.
no, no,
Yeah.
yeah, no.
Huh.
This is another big deal. Let's get into the other side we haven't even mentioned yet.
Oh yes, the loveliness of globalism. Paris Olympic security sweep upends live.
Of course it does.
Yep.
Now the French did the same thing that the Brazilians did in Rio de Janeiro, because they had a lot of criminals in Rio, and they had to get rid of them. So they literally pushed the favela peoples just simply out of Rio de Janeiro in a mass exodus. They cleaned the city out. Now, to be fair, Rio was probably the most troublesome and crime-ridden Olympics we've ever had, but it wasn't that bad. But day one of these Olympics, we had physical attacks. We had mobs of roving Muslims hunting down Jews. We had multiple fires set across the Paris, four of which were on trains. We had several attempted rapes. Thank goodness. One successful. 5 dudes gang raped an Australian lady. Nice. My point is, day one, violence across the board. Now, to be fair, the European Muslims said that there would be days of reckoning for the Olympics. I don't know why the Olympics is so offensive to a Muslim, but okay, white people doing something, I suppose, but it's not just white people. Whatever. They kept their word, and boy, did we have a lot of violence. And yet, they did a sweep in Paris just the same as they did in Rio. And day one saw more violence than we saw the entire Brazilian Olympics. Day one, right? Now, this fella right here, you see in the picture talking to this reporter, he's an EMT. He's been doing it quite a while. It seems to be a pretty good one. He's never done anything wrong. He's happy to be living in Paris, and he seems to be quite productive, right? Because most of us don't have a problem with immigration of people who wish to be part of society and produce. We don't care about that, especially we Americans. We are that.
Yep.
The argument is coming with the illegals that just come off and suck at the government teat, which is what they're doing. Keep in mind, in Germany, just let me throw a statistic out at you, buddy. 47% of all welfare checks in Germany go to illegal immigrants.
Hmm.
Did you hear what I said?
And, oh, I heard it. I
Yeah,
heard it. This is what
47%.
happens.
Now
Listen, we
this fella here is not that. He's working. He's got a good job. He helps people. He's an EMT. Right? And he has been banned from being anywhere in Paris. He's been told he's not allowed in the city. Just because of his skin color, of course. And there are this is something Paris has tried to, or excuse me, France has tried to do, is to keep the peace, to keep them all out. I'm assuming, especially the Black Africans. However, we're still getting violence anyway.
you
So
like how they can admit what the problem is when they don't want to look bad.
right,
You see,
well, like she coming to California, yeah.
yeah, just like in California, all of a sudden they could get rid of the homeless masturbators and street shitters.
Yeah.
Real quickly, suddenly and in a hurry, they could do it.
Hmm.
But any other time, it was a big, they had to. One of the things that libs do, and I say libs because we don't have a better word for them, is they pretend that simple solutions are complicated when they make them look bad. So if you say, "Hey, why don't we just get rid of the people who are causing this problem?" Well, it's complicated. What do you mean it's
Right.
complicated? You just send in police
Yeah.
to remove them.
Yeah.
It's very simple. It's the
Yeah.
easiest thing you'll ever have to do when it comes to power. It's naked force.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they're called progressives, just so you know, to
They're
categorize
called
them.
filth. Is what
Yeah,
they are.
fair enough. But of course they do act when they have to. But this action didn't help them. But see, the thing is, they go on about racism quite a bit. But in fact, this is racism, right? In multiple layers. Whereas the average human would say, arrest the criminal.
Well, they don't have time, see, because they played denialism for so long. They wanted to pretend this wasn't real, that there wasn't an obvious connection between all these people. They wanted to pretend that that's not true, so they don't have time to filter. Now all they can do is just burn it all. You
Right.
see.
But I
Because
mean,
if they were rational and sensible and not driven by complete and utter fear and lust for power, they could look at it from a statistical standpoint and be like, okay, we know these guys are doing this amount. We know these guys do this amount. Let's focus on the guys who do the most. Find the ones who are troublemakers.
mhm,
Get them out of the way.
that's right.
You
It
can do
doesn't.
it. That's
It,
all totally possible,
right.
except they want to deny. They want to
Right.
play denialism, and
Until they
because they
don't
want to
want
do
to,
this game,
like in this
yeah, and then they don't have
situation.
time. Now you don't have
Right.
time to
Right.
be discriminatory.
Um,
If you just do a little bit of discrimination at the start, you don't have to do all of it at the end.
right. And the simple thing is, I don't care what color or who they sleep with of the criminal. I don't. This doesn't mean anything to me. All I care about is their criminality. But of course that is not the case these days. Now, keep in mind, these imams, the Muslim priests have been calling for these days of reckoning and burning of Europe during the Olympic Games for weeks, months probably. And leading up, especially the last week before the Olympic Games started across Europe, there were fires everywhere. There were stabbings. There were mass marchings in the street. Ireland is got a pop, dude. I think Britain
Good,
might as well.
good.
Germany is literally, even though they have tons of problems and tons of issues, the people are getting upset. They've had a situation like we've seen across many other places, whereas more conservative party comes up because they have to fix the thing. So what the German government has decided to do is, well, we're going to ban them and make them illegal, therefore they can't have a party. We saw
They've
here in
tried that
France,
before.
they effectively cheated to keep Macron in power, giving
Yep,
control of France to Marxists, literal Marxists, right?
that's right.
Keeping Le Pen out. So we've seen some successes and some failures, but we're getting people starting to wake up and starting to stand up and push back,
What
which is a good thing. But people like this dude,
here's the
you know,
here's the thing
it's a shame.
is it's unfortunate for this gentleman that he's caught in the crossfire, but he could solve this problem himself by just leaving on his. If he's that worried that the people are going to become feral, right, and start attacking people who are the wrong color, then your solution is get the fuck away from those. Why would you stay? Why would you want to stay around those people?
Yeah.
Chester, if Japan decided that they did no more whiteys, and if we see you, we're going to cut your head off,
Hmm.
would you just stay in Japan, or would you get out?
Well,
Would you come back to America?
that would give me excuse to take my own head, so I'd stay. But I'm weird.
You get my point, though.
Yeah, I do get your point.
Most rational people, if a whole lot of a native population is just like, you know what, we don't want you here anymore, you're either going to get away from them or you're going to fight them. Those are your only two options. And I think the sane thing, if you're a smart, industrious person or just a decent person, especially if you're a young person, just get away from it. There's you don't have to live there. It's the world is not what it was 30 years ago. So much of the rest of the world has built up in ways that it wasn't built up before. You don't have to live in the West to
Mhm.
have a good life anymore. In fact, a lot of people are leaving the West to go have a better life. It's just a fact.
Well, it's weird. We're
And
seeing this
yeah,
reversal. Yeah, that's true.
yeah, you
And
get people get a little bit of money, or they get a little bit of like online income, or just like a stable side income that they don't have to really touch. And one of the first things they do is they leave America or they leave Europe. They get out.
yeah,
They
yeah.
just get the hell out.
Well, cackling Hillary went and killed Gaddafi, and that's what opened the floodgates. And of course, as
Yep.
soon as it started happening in Europe, I knew America would be next, and I knew that it would end very badly. And these people coming in, looking for free handouts, you're going to pay a heavy price for it. You're going to be the excuse. Speaking of that, why do we have so many cackling female leadership? What's up with that?
Because we are under the judgment of God.
Oh, fair.
There you go. That's
Fair.
the answer. I mean, it does say in the scripture that
Well, I guess we're going to the wasteland.
leaders of this nature are judgment from God. Frivolous leaders,
Yeah, the
evil
mandate of
leaders.
heaven. That is true.
Yeah.
But
So
God
what I
also said
honestly
that
think
better live in the wasteland than with a nagging wife. So I guess we got to
that's
go. We
true,
got to
but
go.
that might just be what we have to do. Just go to the
Yeah.
wasteland and rebuild society,
Yeah.
and just keep them out this time. Like, no, we don't need
Yeah.
you.
Well, it
We don't
doesn't
need you.
last. Cycles and all.
Um,
But I feel bad for this dude because he seems
I
like
do.
to be
My
a good
heart goes
dude.
out to him
Yeah.
because he doesn't seem like he's a bad guy at all. But
No.
at the same time, he's not French. So
No.
France is theirs. It's been theirs for 1,000+ years.
It's true.
I wouldn't. I don't have the audacity to claim that I'm Saudi because I live in Saudi Arabia for a while. Even if I was born there, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't have that audacity. Or Arab. I'm not. I'm clearly not an Arab.
No.
So
We
this
live in the
constant
desert here.
attack on European identities, on the various ethnicities of Europe, as if they're not valid, is done. Because the younger ones, Gen Z ones, they're over it. They're not going to put up with it anymore. They've absolutely had enough of being told that they don't exist effectively. That there is no such thing as Europeanism, there is no such thing as whiteness or white. Then out of the other side of their mouth, they're called bad people for being the thing that doesn't exist. And I genuinely think that's what you're seeing all over all
Maybe.
these big right wing movements that are happening. These people are done being told that they don't exist, that they're non-existent. That you can't. It's both. You ever notice everywhere you go, all of a sudden, especially these European countries, none of them have a culture. Have you ever listened to any of the lefty people in those places? They'll say things like Britain doesn't have a culture.
Which is
France doesn't have a
ridiculous. You're
culture.
living British culture
America
right now.
America doesn't have a culture. And I'm like, that is just evil, is what that is.
Well,
Anybody who says
stupid.
that, anybody who goes to a foreign country or not a country of their origin and says that should be deported. Get out. Sorry,
Well,
go away.
you know the
You
funny
don't want
thing.
you don't want to be a part of our culture? Then get out of our culture.
You
Go
know
on.
the fun one that's the funniest to me about that is when you have the black folk stand up talking about white people's food ain't got no spice, can't get no spice, ain't got no culture, going on about this, right? When in reality, you do realize for the majority of history of Africa, the black peoples had no spice at all. It
Yep.
isn't until
They
you
just
interacted with the white people. Fair enough, they enslaved you. Fair enough. Well, the blacks
well,
enslaved you, sold you to Muslims, and the
yeah.
Muslims sold the white people. But whatever,
That's
you were enslaved.
that's
I
more
get it. But it was those whiteys there, the French particularly, that introduced you to the spices, right?
cuisine. They even
Yeah,
have the word. It's even their own
it
word
is.
for it.
It is.
Cuisine.
Well, most courtly words in English are actually French because of the Norman
Yeah.
invasions, right? But yeah, I thought it always makes me laugh because it's like the Africans are literally the last humans on Earth to have spices,
Yeah.
literally. And you're
So,
going on about it. It's like, how dumb are you? Where do you think you're?
well,
Am I allowed to say put the words watermelon and fried chicken together because I love them?
everybody loves
Yeah,
watermelon.
but I
I've
mean,
never met a person that doesn't like watermelon fried
well,
chicken.
no, watermelon's awesome. But I don't know. So I always get a kick out of them thinking that's offensive. Everyone loves the whole planet loves watermelon. But the fried
Yes,
chicken thing, where do you think you got that from? Do you think
China.
Africans were fried chicken in? Do you think?
They got that. They got that from China,
Yeah,
right?
no, sure.
No.
Well, the Chinese invented everything. That is true. But Chinese and French, but they have a lot in common. But I mean, it's just God. Please use your
Yeah.
brain. Anyway,
We have to do a great sorting in the world, and we need a soft reconquista movement in Europe, especially to get some of these people out. Not all of them got to go, but a lot of them got to go. You're talking. You
yeah.
said what was it? 70% of people who collect welfare in Germany are
40,
migrants. Nah,
47%.
okay. That's still way
Half,
too many. You
half,
got to go.
half.
See ya.
Yeah,
See ya. Go
it's pretty
home.
bad.
Bye bye.
And it's pretty
But
bad.
you know what? Germans should even just pay them to go home. Be like, no, here, take some money and leave. Just get out.
Well, I
Get the
mean,
fuck
now
out.
this brings us to a question that's not necessarily related to the Olympics, because we are talking about the debacle, and I guarantee you there are going to be a lot more events. They're going to try to repress the news on it, but they won't be able to. But I guarantee you, over the course of these 2 weeks, there's going to be at least 1 to 3 really bad incidences, and probably dozens of smaller ones. Day one, it kicked off so badly. And now keep in mind another thing before I come to Grimlock, because I do want to hear his opinion on these things that I do want to kind of put out as a caveat. The French government is so stupid and so broken. I know I don't need to say it, but just to reiterate, that they actually, you know what they did to deal with security for the Olympic Games? You know what they did? You would never guess. They hired Qatar, Muslim nation, to come in and police their games. Either they were inept to do it or they were afraid they would be blamed, some racism would be put on them. They brought in a shitload of Qatari military and, well, police supposedly, but big air quotes on that. So there are Qatari enforcers running around Paris right now. They don't seem to be doing a very good job.
Yep.
Isn't that weird? The French, so pathetic, so weak, that they have to hire a little teeny foreign country to come in and help them. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
where we're at.
it's where we're
The
at.
Western man has fallen, and the only way it gets better is for a whole lot of Western of all races, but especially the white, to say enough. The only way
Yeah,
it's going to
no,
get better.
they got to stand up because the white people are
Yeah.
under the boot right now. And you know what happens? It cycles. It's not the first time that the Europeans have been under the boot of someone. Just keep that in mind.
Correct.
That these modern idiots would not tell you that, but we've had plenty of our own problems. Thank you very much, Grimlock. You are muted, but I wish you to not be muted. First question of the day for you, Grimlock.
I'm
Please tell
being
me your
summoned.
opinion. You are being summoned. Please tell me your opinion on the watermelons.
That's a good time.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
watermelon. Watermelon's good. Can you please
Yeah.
tell me why I'm not allowed to talk about watermelons, even though I love watermelons? You know what's really good?
You're a
Watermelon
grown ass man.
slushy.
Talk about whatever the fuck you want. I already
Well,
told you. Y'all already have the mythical pass from me. I don't give a fuck. It's a word.
that's true. That is true. But I really never understood this whole thing with the watermelon or the fried chicken. Every culture on the planet has fried chicken and watermelon. Everybody. The
It's
watermelon,
it's
they found the watermelons in the Americas and they spread around the world quick.
Yeah.
As with the
a bunch
strawberries
of
and the potatoes and the tobaccos and the cocos and the coffees and all that kind of shit. Everyone loves it. The Americas gave life to the world. Refreshment. Oh, I'm sorry,
a bunch
Grimlock.
of low IQ, emotional people who don't know nothing.
Oh, okay, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. But anyway, what do you think about this
Hearing young
chaos?
people talk,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
um, hearing young people talk have firmly put me of the mind that the voting age in this country should be moved up to 30.
Yeah, no, you and I agree. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I agree. At minimum, that should be the
Ooh,
minimum.
Alan mentioned the settlers of
And
Catan. It's very nice. He also said she
as
is the
for
bride, talking about the girl. Interesting. I'm sorry, Grimlock.
and as for that shit show, because holy fuck.
Hmm.
After the first time I saw it, I didn't want to see it again. And then everybody fucking reposted it 25 million fucking times.
Sure. So they
Um,
they had it. They got the effect they wanted. They wanted attention. They got it, boy.
Oh yeah.
You got to talk.
again,
I'm gonna have a donut.
to all the people who go, I don't understand why people are being so negative towards the LGBT. Like, okay, first of all, tell me what the LGBT has to do with the Olympics. Fuck
Yeah.
the culture of France. I mean, that's a whole nother shit show in and of itself. But we're talking about what's supposed to be about athleticism, sportsmanship, and patriotism. That's what the Olympics are, right?
Yep. Correct.
Sorry,
What the
I'm
fuck
still
does a
eating
bunch
a
of fucking
donut.
faggots? What does a bunch of fucking faggots prancing around in lingerie, mocking a Christian, an important moment in the Bible, have to do with any of that?
Do you guys know what the Last Supper was about? Do you know what the point of that story in the Bible is?
Tell me.
I'm eating a donut.
What are you asking questions for?
First of all, you just set up story time with Chester and then refused. What kind of niggardry is that?
Well, I'm just telling me my donut.
Well, let me ask you a serious question because this is very important. What kind of donut?
Double
My wife.
glazed.
Now my wife
Old-fashioned.
wants donuts. Thanks, Chester. Now at 10 o'clock tonight, I'm gonna have to go get her donuts.
You know what's really good, Teller? Is Dunkin' Donuts blueberry glazed. Those are good.
He said you should try Dunkin' Donut blueberry glazed donuts.
Mm-hmm.
They're really good.
They are. No, seriously, I'm asking, do you guys know what the Last Supper is about? What the point of it is?
Enlighten me. I am no Bible scholar by any means.
You passed that buck pretty quick.
Yes, I did.
The Last Supper, in the part of the story there, is set in place at Passover, of course, because Jesus is explaining that he's not a Messiah. Now, it's very interesting, right? Because everyone calls Jesus the Messiah, but he refutes it himself. And no, I don't hear any preachers talking about that, do you? Now,
well, Jewish ones.
Jewish, well, if you read any of the external Jewish books, you would realize they hate Jesus hardcore.
Yeah.
They hate
far
Jesus
more than
hardcore.
Muhammad for some reason.
Oh no, Muhammad didn't have a problem with Jesus because you know he was Jesus. But anyway, Jesus figure.
Just ask him.
Just ask him. But no, he refuted it because people don't seem to understand what this word Messiah means. Messiah is a war general, a person to bring revolution and victory through violence is what a Messiah is, right? And Jesus at that Last Supper very clearly was saying, I am not a Messiah. That is not why I'm here. I am here to sacrifice myself, my life, for you and the salvation of all men from past to present and into the future. I am not a Messiah. I am a martyr. That's what the Last Supper is about. Jesus telling his disciples what was coming and to try to soothe them. Now it didn't work. For several of them got very upset. There was violence from some of them. There was betrayal from some of them. Now, if you read the Gnostic text, there's an extra. It's almost the same, right? The story is very similar. The Gnostic one just has a little bit more extra detail. One of those extra details is Yeshua sitting down and talking to his best friend Judas Iscariot. Right? That's his best friend and his most dearest confidant, sitting down and saying, I need you to do something for me. I need you to betray me to the Romans. He refused vociferously, but Jesus in the end was able to convince him to do so. It's interesting that in the Council of Nicaea, they decided to leave that part of the story out, don't you think?
Well, you're really going to open up a can of worms. You start getting me talking about the Council of Nicaea.
Well, anyway, but of course, that's the whole point of the Last Supper, was to him to tell me, look, I know it's a revolutionary time. I understand we're fighting, the Jews ourselves are fighting for our freedom from the Romans. Sure, I understand this. But I am not the Messiah you call me. I am not that. I am a martyr. I am here to sacrifice myself. My Father has given me orders, right? And that's what the Last Supper was. He was informing them of what was going to happen, what he was doing, and how they needed to act.
Right.
So,
what he was saying is what they think that means is not what I am. It is I am
It
not
is
a
Alan.
warlord,
That's
or
right.
at least not yet. He's going to be, according to later prophecies. I am not here to destroy the enemies of Judaism or of Judea. I am here to destroy the enemies of all mankind, which is death. And that's
Mhm.
that's why, Chester, that he did that on the Passover.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a purpose for it. But it's about giving oneself over to one's fear.
I cut out for a second. Am I back?
You are. Because
Represents the passing over in Egypt
Uh-huh.
during the final plague, which was the death of the firstborn. If they put the blood on their door, the angel of the Lord, which was probably Satan, probably Lucifer, passed
Gabriel.
over and did not kill their firstborn son.
Mhm.
Everybody else, he killed them. That's why he chose Passover, because it's a representation of what he is supposed to be. He is the sacrifice. He is the blood
Mhm.
that takes it all. That makes it so death, the angel of the Lord, which is the angel of death, passes over you, and you get to live forever.
Yeah.
He was never coming to be a warlord.
No.
That's what they thought, but that's because they didn't listen to Isaiah. Because Isaiah told them he's not coming to be a warlord.
No.
But they didn't want to hear that.
But
So-
it is interesting how all modern Christendom calls Jesus the Messiah, isn't it? They did. It's like,
Well-
read your damn book. You know, that's one thing I have to give to the Muslims. At least they sit and listen quietly as the book's read to them. I don't think they read
That's
it.
true.
I don't think they can
They're-
read most of them.
They're very devout when it comes to that. I think the reason being is because the way probably the Catholics, I would say, because if you read the Gnostic stuff, they don't call it that. But the way the Catholics reinterpreted it was he is the Messiah, but he wasn't a warlord yet. Because eventually, according to the book of Revelation, he's going to come back and be the warlord and be the king and conquer and take
that's
over the
true.
world and da 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 da.
Well, he initially was going to be.
Which is
Remember,
what the Muslims believe too, if you know what they believe. They believe at the end of the world he's going to come back and defeat the devil and the Antichrist and rule
that's right.
as king.
That's right. But you know, now it wasn't always the thought of Yeshua to be that way in the story. Because remember, there's a part where he's having them go out and collect swords and weapons, and he's getting ready for like some terrorist action, right? Jesus is, and then he's taken into the wilderness by his father, and he's tempted and all that kind of stuff, right? And it is laid upon him at that moment that no, you're not a Messiah, you're not fighting, you are going to die. And he's like, but I don't want to die, Dad. And he got upset about it. He wasn't happy with it. Keep that in mind. He was not happy with the choice that his father had.
But he did it
because he was a dutiful son.
Yes, which is also the point.
Yeah.
If the perfect man, which is what Christians believe, right? He's perfect, he's sinless. If even he was willing to die a miserable, horrible death simply because his Father in heaven willed it, what excuse do you have? Everybody talks about how bad their life is, how hard it is. It's not fair. It's not fair. What about fair? He never sinned once. He literally did nothing wrong.
Well, don't.
And
You
God
shouldn't
still said,
read the
nope.
Gnostics. Then you shouldn't read those.
You gotta die.
Don't read those.
I've read them. I'm just talking about the
And
conventional
he sinned
Christianity.
several times. But whatever. I get your point, and that is the overall overarching point, right? But of course, these people, they're insulting a thing that I don't think they truly understand anyway.
Well,
Just-
they understand that enough people hold it as sacred, so therefore they must destroy it.
Sure,
That's
let's
what
piss
they
off half
understand.
the planet because we're better than you. It's such such an intolerant view that these people have who scream about tolerance so much. And it's like, we're being attacked, we're dying. Okay, well, first of all, who's attacking you? Please list it.
Themselves,
Exactly.
usually.
And who's killing you? Well, please list it, because the only
Well,
accounts I
themselves.
see of you dying is by your own hand.
Or others like you, like lesbians, for instance. They have horrific levels of domestic violence. See? I'm sure that's straight white men's fault somehow too.
I'm sure it is. Everything is our fault in the end, but we're the ones that have to clean it up anyhow. But
It
what a debacle! And they're all happy and gleefully laughing. Understand? I've said this many times. Like we've seen so many articles with Headland here and her acolyte, where she's so upset. She's very upset. People don't love her thing. Bullshit. She knows exactly what she's doing behind the scenes. She's laughing her ass off. You stupid cis, whatever it is they call us. Ha ha ha, I broke your shit. Don't give me any
correct.
of this. These people are not upset. They're not worried. They're laughing their ass off that they got to mock your God because they're way better than you. They're way smarter than you. They are just superior humans. You infidel, God worshiping, filthy Christians, you.
Well, this is why, Chester, that the representation of the Red Queen being beheaded is so important, because they genuinely believe they are beyond the natural order of things. Whether you believe in God or not is irrelevant. There is a natural law that nothing in all of the universe that we have discovered or observed even remotely bends. And that is for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This is a hard coded law of reality. It is a harder coded law of reality than gravity. Nothing escapes this force
Mhm.
of reciprocity. Not a thing we've ever found, probably ever will, can bend it or break reciprocity. It will happen. But these people, in their hubris, think that they've killed it. They've
Yep,
beaten it. They're beyond that. Okay, well,
they
hey,
do. And
party on. Party on, Wayne.
let's
Party on.
add let's add another layer to this.
Yep.
The IOC itself. Now, the IOC is extremely corrupt, just like all the other UN departments. Like I said, you go search one, uh, any of their letter agencies, and you'll find just ridiculous levels of corruption, right? But the IOC is all about money, 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 money. Keep in mind, countries don't make money off the Olympics; they lose it. It's a sacrifice. But a lot of places are willing to do it because for the glamour of it, right? I get it. But the IOC always makes their money. They're going to get their pay, right? Now, in order for you to get the rights to this is why it's so hard to find Olympic stuff on YouTube, right? In order for you to get the rights, you have to pay hundreds of millions of dollars. Do notice the hundred. Not millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to get the rights to pay to display this in your country. So a lot of countries are pumping out a lot of money in order to show the Olympics, and of course, viewership is on a steady decline over the last so many Olympics. And this one is getting boycotted. There's a huge drop off in viewership. But let me give you a little story. Just there are many stories like this. There are many stories. I'm going to give you one. Okay. An Australian lady came to the Olympics to see the Olympics a day before. Right. I don't have all the detail on her. I had heard it reported that she was actually there in support of a friend of hers or a family member of hers who was in the games. But whatever, she was there for the Olympics in Paris from Australia. She gets gang raped by 5 dudes. She ends up stumbling, or the clothes are ripped and torn off of her into a cafe, and they help her. And the guys were actually, she was able to get away, I guess. The guys were actually following in. She was pointing them out, and a whole debacle happened, right? So there's a news story here, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
and all the reporters who are from other countries in Paris are under the authority of the IOC. They're not under their own authority, even though they paid hundreds of millions of dollars. They are under the authority of the IOC. And the IOC said to these reporters, if you cover this story, we're going to revoke your press badges. Now, several of them quietly, I think, said, screw that. And they sent the news back to their countries. Australia, luckily, Sky News was brave enough to actually pick it up and run with it. But there was a huge boycott, particularly of the nine news reporters. I think it was like 50 or 60 of them. So these things are happening as well. They're trying to black out any kind of bad information. You can't say what they don't allow, and they're charging ridiculous amounts of money. And we're seeing several countries come out and push back against it. Now, when Sky News reported that, you also had the I can't remember his name, but that Abel guy that's in charge of Australia. He spoke out against them, talking about talking about it, and it's embarrassing. Australia, he's in the same pocket as the LC, right? But
Right.
we have all these reporters that they're trying to silence. We have all this manipulation, all this money making left and right, and let's not forget that they decided not to put air conditioning in the room for the in the middle of summer for the athletes because my environment. They also have put the thinnest, lightest cardboard beds in there because they don't want to having sex, which is weird because it seems your opening ceremony is very pro sex.
Yes. Yes.
Right? And then so you can't do that. And then they don't have enough food supplies in the Olympic Village. Particularly, there's no meat. And then they're saying, well, of course, because veganism is better for you. These are freaking top world athletes. They need their protein, bitch. All of this is going on. And more that I'm sure I'm not aware of because I'm one dude and I only have 24 hours in a day. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Like I said, these people are filth.
Yep.
I am a full International Olympics Committee disrespecter. Completely and utterly. They deserve nothing, like most of the UN apparatus, nothing but scorn, mockery, and shame.
Nah, we should
That's
shut
it.
them down. We should leave them.
Yeah.
Yeah, screw
Yep.
them. And NATO too needs to be shut down. Maybe we'll get our wish. Who knows? Grimlock, would you like to give me your opinion on a lack of protein for Olympic athletes?
The fact that we still listen to vegans about anything just shows how lost we are as people.
Sure.
Yep.
Especially seeing
You want to
5 years they're dead if they don't take medicine.
you want to eat fucking grass? Go the fuck right on ahead.
Yep.
But shut the fuck up.
Yep. Yep.
You want to eat a bunch of processed shit that simulates a hamburger because you're such a pretentious twat that you think that you not eating a dead cow makes you a better person. Go right the fuck on ahead.
Yeah, that's why they're here. By the way, modern cows are you could not release them into the wild. Yeah.
Correct. Now, it's one of the reasons why I advocate against vegetarianism and veganism. Like, I get it if it's a personal thing and you just don't like the idea of an animal suffering in that way for you to eat it. Okay, I understand. But the reality is, if we were to everybody stop tomorrow, you would have to facilitate one of the greatest genocides of any species that's ever existed.
Which PETA already does,
Yes, because cows and chickens largely could not exist in the wild.
Not at all.
Or they would even if we protected them, we'd still have to cull the shit out of them because there's no major predators to deal with them out anywhere. So we've chased all the predators away.
We did a good job. We did.
Yeah. Just like we have to go out, and the reason why we have hunting and we regulate hunting so strongly in many of the states is because if we don't, the deer will be a problem, a serious problem.
Yeah.
It would be 1,000 million times worse if we just let all the cows go.
It's true. Well, let me end this Olympic thing on a little lighter note.
LeBron?
Because he's in a boat.
He is in a boat. That's
what did
true.
you think about the opening ceremonies being on boats and being very low key and very cheap? Now, of course, the Paris, because they're under such hostile environment, they were desperate to save money on this, and I think that's the
Mm.
ultimate reason why it looked like that. However, what do you think about the Olympics coming in on boats and having a little show here or there on the side? It was very minimal. It's the most minimal opening I've ever seen in my life. They literally spent $2.
Yeah.
But everything coming in boats because my half of my brain says that's different and interesting. The other half of my brain says all those little countries that got put on those little dinghies, sad. It's kind of insulting them, right? Because you get the Americans coming in on this gigantic barge with so many Americans on it, it looked like it was going to tip over and sink, right? There's this way that was not legal. I'm telling you, that's not legal. But then you had poor Sierra Leone coming on a little freaking dinghy with two players waving a flag.
Excellent.
Kind of insulting, don't you think?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys
Yeah.
think about this whole boat Olympics here?
If I had to guess, it was intentional. The French are nothing if not assholes.
I'll be back.
They are probably the biggest group of assholes out of all assholes at a genetic level. The French, they're notoriously mean people, just mean, cruel, and I wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't a completely intentional thing. America has enough money; it can buy all of those boats, as many as it wanted. So it having a big one makes a lot of sense. Plus, they have a lot of athletes there. But I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't want to downplay it, just sheerly out of just pure pettiness. It's France. It's being a catty little French fruit is a thing that's real. They really are like that. I mean, look at their president, for crying out loud. That is a man where masculinity goes to die. That's what that is. That is.
He should have had a date with the guillotine a long time ago.
Yeah. So I think that it was definitely intentional. I think that there's, the French playing a little bit of mind games with people because, like I said, they're very conniving, petty people. I find it absolutely hilarious that these Olympics are even in France because I have been very open that I despise France as a culture, as a country, their effect on history. So it's a perfect setting for them to mock Jesus Christ and Christians as a whole. It's also a perfect setting for them, apparently, to be catty little bitches and make everybody look insignificant compared to the mightiness of themselves, the glory of France. I also find it hilarious that, like we were talking about earlier, when they needed to clean up a problem, suddenly they figured out how to do it. It's real easy, real simple, real quick. Isn't too much of a work. They can get it done. But then any other time, they pretend. They play this little make believe game where they're being very bad faith, very duplicitous. It's kind of the same thing with these boats, right? They're going to pretend like it was, we assigned them to based on the number of athletes and the size and blah, 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 blah. It's probably, sure, that's probably partially true. But did you have to give them such pathetic-looking ones? Like, there was no better-looking options. They had to be the most pathetic ones you could find. In a country like France, which it is interesting that they even came in on water because, I mean, there may have been a time when the French were known as decent navigators, but I mean, when you think of nautical cultures or empires or countries or people, you don't think of the French. That's not typically how it works. So it's very interesting that's what they did. I was actually thinking if the Olympics are going to keep, cursing us every 4 years, be this malediction in our life that we can't get rid of, can we please just go back to Greece? Just be in Greece from now on, because this constantly moving around the world shit is insufferable. Every time, and the reason why it's insufferable is because you actually do any research on what actually happens at these Olympic areas. They build these giant Olympic villages that are basically little suburbs right outside of these cities typically, they become run-down trash heap ghettos after the Olympics leave, because they literally built like small little towns. That's what they do. They build it very quickly for the Olympic Games. Well, I say very quickly. And then once they all piss off, right, they all fuck off, they just leave it there. Like, so now they just have all this infrastructure built that no one's using. Well, what do you think's going to happen? It becomes slum. And that's exactly what happens all over the world after the Olympics. Very often, these places become terrible, terrible places nobody wants to be around or live. And yet, now the people of that area are just stuck with it. When if we just moved it all back to Greece, and let it be in Greece somewhere, one of the main, maybe even Athens. Athens would make sense. And it's just always there now, we wouldn't have these problems. But because it's big business, right, like Chester was talking about, it costs lots and lots of money to get the rights to air it. It costs lots and lots and lots more money to get it in your country. Like, I think the European Union paid 100 million euros or something like that for the games in France, just to the IOC, not for anything else. That wasn't even just regular costs or whatever. That was just the fee to have it there, which is insane to me. So I don't know. I think the whole thing is a mess from Jump Street, and it's tragic because it should be something that's pretty cool. It used to be something that was pretty interesting every now and again, but the problem is the powers that be have decided that nationalism and national pride and patriotism and all these things are bad no words. You're not allowed to have that anymore.
If you're
allowed to feel that. Yeah, if you're a Western. So if you're one of those places, that's everybody's got to be one big melting pot. I love that term, melting pot. No, I reject that. I reject that entirely. I actually like the cultures, the various cultures of the Europeans and the various cultures of even America. I think that is special and unique, and we shouldn't just throw it away because it might offend some person who doesn't belong in those places. If you go to a country, Chester,
Yeah.
and you're offended at their culture, leave. That's it. That's the answer. It's not your place to preach to them. It's not your place to dictate that they need to change. That's not your
But my
business.
free shit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
That's not what I wanted. It's not a good
That's
thing.
not it at all. So you've seen that, I don't know if we're going to talk about this at all, but I noticed you're searching. Apparently all of the search engines are now hiding that there was even an assassination attempt.
Of course.
Even DuckDuckGo has erased it.
So once again, it's not what I want. Listen, okay, you keep talking. On
I'm eating a bagel.
a boat. How about that? Well, it's kind of almost.
There, I think that right there. Go back up. The one right, yeah, that one. There you go. Click on that. I bet it'll take you to where you're looking for.
No, but whatever. But I was just talking about this shot here. This isn't a good one. But the Olympic Games were done along the Seine river, and it was very ultra low budget. But they had kind of these big boats where they're bringing everybody in. But the American ferry was the largest one they could find. It wasn't big enough, and it really looked like the boat was going to capsize and everyone was going to die. I think it was an assassination attempt at the entire American Olympic team. That's my opinion.
Love it. I love the moxie of that attempt. I like that.
Yeah. Failed, of course, but the French kind of, suck.
It's the French. Yeah.
It's the French. They're just not capable of those kind of things. I mean, look what they gave the world. Joan of Arc. Yeah.
The original tranny, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a stupid, confused girl abused and used by a Catholic priest, put at the front of armies on a horse without a weapon. Keep in mind, Joan of Arc didn't fight any battles. This
That's
is
right.
nonsense, Hollywood crap. Then ultimately gets captured by the English, and they don't really care anything about her, but she's a representation of France. So what do? Burned her at the stake.
That's
Good
right.
job, France. Good job. French Revolution,
I would
absolute
venture
fail.
to
They had
guess.
it. They ended with an emperor.
Yes, it did, and one of the best emperors France ever had. To be honest, I would bet, even though he was, a psycho, I would venture to guess um, that more Christians were burned at the stake than anybody else. I don't think it's close.
I'm sure, yeah. Wrong kind of
So,
Christians. Well, dude, the Reformation was insanely bloody. Do you know what the Catholics are doing? I can't even really talk about it on YouTube. It's that
yeah,
bad. Yeah.
mhm,
And the French were the ones inciting and executing those orders. Keep that in mind. The French are
that's right.
always the sword of the Vatican. Always. But nevertheless, I just want to talk about the fact that it was weird. It was very cheap. Lady Gaga, who, is Lady Gaga, did a thing.
I do have something about her later. We'll get to it though.
Okay. Well, I think you might want to get to it now because I'm moving on from the Olympics.
Well, it's got nothing to do with the Olympics, so
Oh,
go
okay.
on.
All right. Well, let's go on to slightly funner things and talk about failures on the scale of what?
Exclusive Naruto movie, a complete disaster. That's too many. That's too many. That's too many colons.
Uh-huh.
Dragon Ball Evolution all over again. You could have just used a comma. Could have
Yeah,
used a comma there.
that's what it's supposed
Would
to
have been
be.
fine.
Yeah,
Buddy,
yeah, they don't know.
taking you put your headlines through a grammar AI grammar checker.
He's Scottish. Give him a break. They're not really great on the whole, education thing. But yeah, I said it. All right. But anyway, it looks like there are several reports regarding this. It's not just one person's opinion, by the way. But you're getting a lot, and I'm talking about from multiple voices. A lot of voices coming out and say that the Naruto movie is so bad, it actually tells Dragon Ball Evolution to hold its beer.
That's amazing.
That is shocking. Now, I don't know a lot about Naruto. I know some because my kids loved it, my son particularly. So I've seen plenty of Naruto because I always pay attention to what my kids were watching, right? And for me, it seemed to be kind of a standard coming of age story of ninja clans that rule the world. Okay, fine. But it was very popular. It went on for years. As a matter of fact, I think it's still going on in a different iteration.
Yes.
So, big thing, very popular, cool. Now, we've seen a lot of adaptations of the things we love recently just being absolutely kicked in the balls. And it looks like there's nothing different here. And it's a shame, really. Once again, it's, the same people as Lionsgate, right? That give us such wonderful things as the Crow reboot. But why can't you just take the story that is already written for you and just simply adapt it directly? How hard is this?
Apparently, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Even good ones, and there's really only been one good one that was an anime adaptation, the One Piece adaptation on Netflix. That Oda himself was like, "No, we're gonna do this right." Even that had a lot of changes and alterations and things. Which, granted, One Piece is a little silly.
Sure.
So it had a lot, but it was still good. It still got the spirit of it. It still got the tone and the tenor of the characters. And the kid playing Luffy did a really good job. Even though he's a little bit hard to understand sometimes because he has a really thick Hispanic accent. I think he's from Mexico. But other than that, I mean, it was really, really good. So my question is, apparently Lionsgate is making this.
Yep.
Did Mr. Kishimoto not have any executive say? Yes or no, like Mr. Oden did?
I don't know.
None? Because I don't see why he wouldn't. Why would maybe he just doesn't care as much? Because Oda he was involved. He was literally telling them to do reshoots when they screwed up.
Right.
And not even of like offensive stuff, just simple logical storytelling stuff. Just like, no, you can't do this. And he was right every time, of course. But That's how much authority he had over that project. I don't know if he still does. I would assume that he does, but you would
Gotta
think
protect your
with as
baby, right?
popular, yeah, as popular and as big and as important as Naruto is to the anime culture, especially the Western anime culture,
Yeah.
you would think he would have some say. He'd be in
You
the
think.
conversation.
This was
So,
a big hit internationally. That is true. But
humongous
yeah,
Naruto.
you
I'm
know,
looking it up right now. Apparently, it sold 250 million copies, over 250 million copies in
Nice.
46 countries
nice.
as of May 2019. That's
Well,
massive.
you probably should have known, Lion Gate. You had a problem when you're starting out with a guy named Destin Daniel Cretin.
Why is he named Cretin?
Well, you know where that comes from. You know, it's very interesting, the whole little etymology of that. The
Another
Cretin,
French fuck.
well, we can always blame the French, but actually, Cretin is coming out of the island of Crete. And it's quite interesting, those poor Cretans, because they found themselves at odds with their brothers in Macedonia and the Hellenic League. But they were getting oppressed so much that they actually, in droves, left Crete and went over to the east side of the Mediterranean and founded a little area that we call Gaza today. And of course, they called them the Philistines, which are just Greek Cretans. And of course, we use the word Philistine to mean uneducated, dirty, unsophisticated fool. So
Well, that's
these
what
poor
Cretin means
people,
too.
well, that's what Cretin means too. So these poor people, were they really that bad, or is this some politic going on?
It's politics. I mean, they wouldn't attack Jews, Chester. You don't think they got the propaganda machines going? Come on now.
But whatever.
They're the masters of it.
So he must be, his family must be of Crete. So
that's interesting to me. That I might change my name. My last name was Cretin.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I might change my last name.
Now,
that's like having a last name of shithead. Hey, shithead.
Yeah, I'm sure we can find one. Now, Grimlock, you seem to be of the age for the Naruto.
No, I never got into Naruto.
Never got into that, huh? I was, because we get a lot of anime that come out of here in Japan, of course. It's just a constant machine. And recently we've been seeing more go overseas than it was before. But Naruto was one of the ones that did go overseas. Dragon Ball, Gundam eventually went, but I don't think it hit as hard as it did here. Of course, when I was young, we had Yamato or Star Blazers, and all of the different mecha stuff. But
I'll give you your 5. Dragon Ball, especially of my generation. Dragon Ball, obviously, it's perennial. Cowboy Bebop was huge, but it was short. Full Metal Alchemist was especially Brotherhood was much better. And then you had Naruto, One Piece. I'll give you 6 actually. Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. Those were, especially in like the mid-early 2000s. Those were your kings,
right?
And they were humongous in the West.
They were,
still are.
And like I said, here in Japan, Naruto was really killing. But I think the West, I think it was bigger in the West than it was here, actually. Where with Bleach, I would not say that is true. That is not true.
No.
Bleach was huge here in Japan, bigger than Naruto. But nothing caps One Piece. Nothing. One Piece owns Japan.
This just says my taste in anime is old as fuck.
What do you like?
Because I mean, it had Gundam, but back in the when sci-fi was actually, the Sci-Fi Channel was actually cool. Vampire Hunter D, Robot Carnival, of course Akira. You cannot.
Well, no escape. Amazing, yeah.
Project A-ko. I've always been more of a Lupin man, so.
Well, you also had
I see
some of the other ones like the Studio Ghibli stuff. That stuff, yeah.
Sailor Moon was huge. Sailor Moon was that one anime that everybody watched, even though everybody acted like just the girls watched it. Everybody watched Sailor Moon.
My daughter liked that, and Cardcaptor Sakura she liked. But
that was big too in the 90s.
You know the interesting thing, my son's father-in-law, my son got married this year, right? and
Yeah.
I've met with them several times. Nice people. The wife's name is Mary, so that's interesting. Of course, they pronounce it Maudie, but it's
Yeah.
Mary because they come from Kurume, and there's a really strange, gigantically tall Mary statue holding a Madonna. It's holding the baby Jesus, but it's done in an India Buddhism way. It's weird.
Okay.
But anyway, her name's Mary, but the father's name is Tetsuo.
That's a good name.
So one of the very
That's cool.
first things I did upon meeting him was Tetsuo, because
See, when I hear Tetsuo, I think of Tetsuo Naito, the wrestler, personally. That's where my big
no,
introduction to that name.
poor Kaneda had to kill his friend. So sad.
Yep.
Akira. You know, the funny thing is, we don't really even see Akira in the movie. We get like a little touch of it.
Yep.
The whole movie's about him, and he's never in the movie
It's
until
weird.
the end.
Well, the interesting thing about it, the movie starts out, as talking about the disaster that happened. Of course, that was Akira, and the movie leads up to another potential disaster. But in all the gigantic fame of Akira, it's worldwide considered the #1 anime of all time, right? And it's huge mega success in sales of manga and ridiculous. Check out how many languages that's been adapted into. It's insane, right? And all the money and everything they made out of it, and nowhere along the line did anyone decide, hey, let's do a prequel. Let's see Akira.
Well,
we haven't gotten anything from it. Nothing.
That would have already happened for sure.
That would have been interesting. The whole thing would have been in the laboratory, and we wouldn't be outside of it, right? But
Right.
I don't know why they've never done any prequels or done anything. They dropped this bombshell, and then they didn't touch it. I don't know. Is that a good or bad thing? I don't know.
It bounced just like the Philistines, Chester.
Yeah, damn
showed up, caused trouble, and then disappeared. Like, wait a minute.
I hate to tell you, these people that are being mispronounced as the Palestinians, because that is a mispronunciation. It's the Romans' fault. Most things are.
That's correct.
But they are not Philistines, just so you know.
No.
There's nothing Greek about them. They come in through the Arab invasions. As a matter of fact, until very, very, very recently, they were called Arabs. No one called them Palestinians. The only people that used the word Palestine were the British when they controlled the region, and they labeled it Palestine after the Roman naming. A mockery naming, by the way. No one called them Palestinians. Nobody. They were Arabs, because that's what they are.
Well, it's also... The Romans also did that because they were just tired of Hebrew bullshit. So they're like, no, we're done.
We're
done
to name it after your most hated enemy, right?
Yeah, that's right.
If the Romans were a little bit more educated, they would have called it Canaan.
Yeah.
That would have been funnier. But they,
Ooh, that would have... We'd still be hearing about that today.
We would be.
It would never heard the end of it.
Maybe it was a wise choice. I don't know. But whatever. Naruto looks like it's absolutely in the bag. So, oh well. Let's keep moving on. What else we got here? Uh-oh.
Creature Commandos trailer unleashed at Comic-Con. DC Studios logo revealed.
Yeah, keep in mind Comic-Con is ongoing, right? Matter of fact, if you want to see a walk around of Comic-Con, Eric Nienotowski has it on his channel. Go check it out. We love Eric.
So they actually put a little effort into Comic-Con this year, huh?
Well, I wouldn't say that. It's still
they did a commercial thing. They did a little bit. Well, I mean, we got a
Disney
big reveals here.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, Disney hasn't been going for a few years because they have their own Disney thing and they're better. But then they found out no one came and they're like, oh well, we better go back.
So very, very desperate. But we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah. But anyway, so I thought we'd watch a trailer. You ready? You want to watch a trailer, Grimlock?
Yeah, why not?
Grimlock says, why not?
I will say, I like the art style. I think it looks good.
Why aren't you doing your clicky things?
It does look like it's not actually embedded.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Well,
interesting.
that's okay. I can find it. It's not a big deal.
Go to old YouTube. See, this is how we know Chester's a boomer. He doesn't have a good ad blocker to block the ads on
I have
Firefox.
one. It's right here. Creature Commander trailer, James Gunn. Is this it?
Is that
No,
just another article without the trailer? What is happening? Why? Go to video. Maybe if you go to video.
Here we go. I got it. Yeah.
There it is.
I don't. Where is my? Oh, that's why.
I thought Congress put a stop to all Task Force X activities.
Oh. You're doing illegal stuff with the task force again. They know that's going to happen. What are they doing?
These assholes aren't human.
So Suicide Squad again, right?
Again, yeah.
You smiling?
Yes.
That's not what the Creature Commandos was.
Mm-hmm.
The Bride, right?
He's pissing!
They for some reason fallen in love with the Weasel because of the movie.
This is your new task force.
Okay.
It's been oh so long since G.I. Robot has sent Nazis back to hell.
Let's call it
That could
Task
be fun.
Force M. M
Task
for
Force-
Monster.
Task
also
Force
known
M.
as
Creature. Well,
So that's just a teaser, right? That's not even an actual
it's
trailer.
a teaser. It's a teaser, yeah.
Teaser trailer, yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It looks good, like aesthetically. It has a nice art style.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't look like it's been too cheaply made. So we'll see, because this is the one that we've all said if he's going to do any of them right, it'll be this one.
Right.
So
it's
we'll
in
see.
his style. It's definitely got his quirkiness. But why have they taken Creature Commandos, which was a team there was literally, if I recall correctly, Grimlock, several issues before we even got to commandoing of them going and recruiting them from around the world. Why do we go from that to their Suicide Squad? Why?
Because somebody sat in a meeting and said, "Remember Suicide Squad?" And some faggot just clapped like a seal.
Yeah, that's probably true. I suppose it's easier and convenient. I guess.
I also think they plan on using Amanda Waller a lot throughout all
it
of
is
the
a good
DCU.
character. It is a good character.
Yeah.
And Viola Davis does a good job.
She's a very good. This is what's happened. Exposition character,
Yeah,
right?
she's a bad guy, so that's awesome.
Yeah, she doesn't need to do anything else other than set up situations and then piss off.
Yeah.
And that seems like what she's doing. So.
Yeah. Well, Viola Davis says dumbass shit sometimes, but I do like her as an actress, though. I think she does a good job. But let me watch that again. Okay. It's definitely Suicide Squad-y. Flag, right?
This is Belle Reve. For over
Okay,
50 years,
non-human
only those at the
internment
uppermost
division.
levels are aware of its
Okay,
existence.
Amanda. So it's secret. No one even knows. Not even the
I
president.
thought Congress put a stop to all Task
Congress
Force
told you to
X
stop it, but
activities.
she doesn't care because she's Amanda Waller. I get it.
Congress said
Okay,
you can't use
dumbass.
human
You already
prisoners.
know this is going to happen. But you know what that was? Now that's interesting. You know how? Let me take an example here. You know how we get the left and of course they've invaded everything, every media. How they like to introduce making a character look cool. They'll have other characters talk about how amazing she is. Oh my God, she's the most amazing ever. Yet, did you know? Oh my God, yes, she is amazing. That's how they do. They have other people tell you how amazing. But that doesn't work and no one likes it. This is how you show someone who has skill. Flag reacted quickly and correctly by taking out his gun and getting ready. Now, Amanda was ready for it as well. But no one is telling me he's awesome. You're showing me. So already we have a good step. That's a good step right there.
Yes. Yes.
I'm just going
Yeah,
to say,
that's
can they
what-
stop with Amanda? Can they stop with Amanda Waller?
Apparently
Yeah,
not.
I get it. I get this too much.
She's overdone.
Yeah.
Look,
Well, her
there's
fatigue.
I like the character, but
no. Well, here's the thing. DC has a real. I know everybody, talks about certain characters having shitty rogues gallery. DC has had a real villain problem for a while. Either they don't know what to, and I know part of it is because you have all these fucking narcissistic hacks that goes, "What if the villain was right?"
right. Yeah. But I
Amanda
mean,
Waller
yeah,
has a place,
sure.
and they keep trying to push her above that place.
Well, it's because they got
They
access
keep
to
trying to make her like
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
they're trying to make her into Nick Fury. In
Yeah,
case
yeah.
nobody's noticing.
That's what they're trying to do. But they also have
It's
access
not
to
that.
Davis, and she's clearly willing to do anything they throw money at her, and good for her. But
I mean, that's fine.
she is very capable. She's a known name. I think she's probably either been nominated or won an Oscar. But she's solid, and they have access to her. But you're right; they're trying to have their Nick Fury in her in a weird way. You're right. You are right. But I think it's also just simply we have Viola Davis, and she's willing to do anything for money.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, look, okay, it's fine having an established actor, actress, whatever the fuck. I'm just saying this character in particular.
Yeah.
They have been trying to make her the focal point, and it's
They have.
of not just these animated movies. They just did a whole fucking event, a DC Comics event where she's supposed to be the focal point yet again, and it's like nobody gives a fuck about Amanda Waller this much.
No. You're right. They do overplay it quite a bit, and they're stretching hardcore here because the Creature Commandos are not part of the Suicide Squad program. They're not imprisoned. Matter of fact, it takes a bit of their fire away to do it like that. They're forced into doing the right thing. That's not the Creature Commandos. That's not how they were. It's actually taken a lot of their fire away. Right?
Yeah.
Like I said, some faggot in the executive
You're right.
meeting said, "Well, we just didn't like Suicide Squad. Everybody likes Suicide Squad."
Well, no, the first one bombed
No,
really hard.
they
The
didn't.
second was quite mixed. The favorite character of the second one was a dude named Polka Dot Man, and you killed him, you dumb fucks. They killed the best guy in the damn movie. Happens all the time, dude. They killed Cottonmouth. I still won't forgive him for that.
Yes.
Anyway, let's continue. That's a good thing though. Right here though, it's a very good point because they're not telling us that he's capable. They're showing us. That's good. Now they made a mistake though. Did you catch it?
What's
Let me
that?
Let me play it again. They made a mistake. Watch. Read what it says on her phone. She just pressed it, right? What does it say?
Yeah, detonate.
Yeah. Mistake.
Yeah.
Mistake gun.
Good job, Jamie.
These assholes aren't human.
James. Jimmy.
These assholes aren't here.
Are you smiling?
Yes.
Sarcastically?
Mm-hmm.
The Bride. This could be cool. Dr. Phosphorus. They love this Weasel guy, right? G.I. Robot, which I don't recall him being a bad guy.
This is your new task force.
It's been oh so long since G.I. Robot has sent Nazis back to hell.
Let's call it Task Force M. M for monster.
And I'm tired of
Also
fucking
known
hearing
as-
about Nazis. Can we find somebody else to murder? Like vegans. Can we murder vegans?
Yeah. They got Frank Grillo, though. I like him. But I
You got
don't know.
Frank.
It is interesting, but you're right. They're always going on about the Nazis. It's an easy target, isn't it? But
I'm gonna be honest. I like the idea of it, but the way that looked in that trailer, that looks like it's gonna be too fucking goofy for me. So I'm out already.
well, dude, it's Gunn. You knew it was going to be goofy. It's what he does.
I know, but I have my thing about my supernatural shit. I like my supernatural shit. And can they not? Everything does not have to be fucking goofy to appease the 12 faggots on Twitter with no personality.
Look at Alan. Alan says, "But where's Harley Quinn? Aren't we all still hungry
no,
for Harley?
no, don't.
What about Harley?
Don't worry.
We was lesbians." Very good, Alan.
Don't worry. They'll find a way to
Yeah,
squeeze her in.
probably get a cameo.
Don't worry.
Oh, goodness gracious. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm out.
It is what we expected out of Gunn, though.
It looks good, but I'm out.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I don't like the fact that they made them Suicide Squad, because that's not what they are. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll wait for reviews to come out, because we did have something else come out that is doing quite well, and it seems to be an actual punch in the head to the Wokeites, which is interesting.
Yeah, they won't learn.
Well, go ahead, Thunder.
So, this movie here, Deadpool Wolverine. In the previews before this movie, they had a new trailer for the second Joker movie. I saw that trailer. This is what I was going to tell you when you mentioned Lady Gaga earlier.
Right.
So, in the movie, at least by what I could tell, Harley is just another crazy person, effectively. Like
Right.
with him. There's none of the build up with her being the doctor or whatever. There's only in the trailer I saw. There's only one little part where he starts to sing, but the way they do it is it doesn't even look like it's a musical. It's just him being crazy. But they don't. That's all you get. You don't. I don't. If I remember right, you didn't get to see her sing at all. So the musical aspect of it has been downplayed heavily in the trailer.
Well,
which is interesting because that tells me that it's probably not as prevalent in the actual film either.
Well, I have a feeling. Yeah, I have a feeling the music in the film is going to be very Big Lebowski-esque.
Yes, yeah, it'll be spots if you catch my meaning. Like here, and it won't be big, huge set. Maybe there'll be one or two big, huge set pieces, maybe at the end.
Yeah,
but it'll build to that. Yeah. Right, it'll be a build up to that.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Chester, because I was actually thinking about the Gutterball scene earlier today.
Yeah, right? It's so good. So good, dude. The Big Lebowski, dude, is such a great movie. Damn nihilist. And John Goodman wasn't out there trying to rape her.
What does this have to do with Vietnam, Walter?
Yeah, right?
Oh, John Goodman, man. It's such a shame. Even though he's had a great career, he should have had 3 times as great. He is an unbelievably good actor. Just ridiculous level.
But it also sounds like he sacrificed a lot to the Hollywood glutton. Even though he is a glutton. He didn't really get paid off for it, because there's a lot of stuff about John Goodman being staunchly ensconced into the Saturnal way, right?
Yes. Yep.
So, but anyway, critics are not happy with the critics. How dare they like this movie?
The critics are mad at the other critics for liking this movie about 2 older white guys. Did you see the audience on Rotten Tomatoes? 97%.
Yeah. But even the critics like it, but they're not supposed to. They're getting yelled at.
I made a point, Chester, on there on Rotten Tomatoes. Look up Top Gun Maverick real quick. Top Gun Maverick came out, 2 years ago now? 2022? You notice Hollywood keeps saying, and we heard this all at the beginning of the year. We heard it during Furiosa. We heard it during all this stuff. What do audiences want? If these movies aren't successful, what do audiences want? I'm going to tell you what they want. They want movie stars.
Yeah,
That's
do.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. They want movie stars with white. I'm just going to tell you the truth because no one wants to say it, but it's the truth. They want white leads all over the world. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, you get 2 good-looking white dudes in an action movie. You can even do 2 good-looking black dudes occasionally, but you get 2 good-looking white dudes in an action movie, you're probably going to make more money than if you didn't. And if you make the movie that people actually want to see with those white dudes, you don't make them cucks, you don't make them weirdos, you don't make them some kind of, whatever the fuck.
You don't make them gay like they did black men?
People for some reason seem to like to watch that type of movie. I know. It's crazy. Chester, it's almost like they don't want to listen to the market because the market's pretty well telling them. The market's saying, hey, we like movie stars. We like our leads of our movies to look like normal people and not weirdos. And we like it when they're straight white guys that you don't make fun of for the whole movie.
Right.
We kind of like that. We're all right with that. Yes. Very affable, charismatic people.
Hugh and Ryan are very likable people.
Yep.
Yes.
I mean,
charming.
Yep.
Even if they were fake, they at least seem likable, which is what we haven't been getting in a while. No. We've been getting especially amongst blacks, we get emasculated faggots.
They hate black men. That's for damn sure.
And every woman, I'm just gonna say it, is a bitch.
Nasty bitch. Well, we saw the bride in the Creature Commando as a bitch, right?
Everybody likes a bitch for about an hour. Nobody wants a full-time bitch.
No. Just to reinforce your point, both of these movies have none of that. There's no bitchiness, no real cattiness, none of the stuff that turns everybody off when it comes to how certain female characters behave. None of that's in either of these films. Not Maverick, not Deadpool and Wolverine. Mm-hmm. These are movies they're basically movies that could have been made at just about any time if the technology would have permitted them to. And that's why they work. That's why they're successful. They've taken away Hollywood has existed for a very long time on tropes. But the reason that it exists on those tropes is because they work. That's it. That's why. It's not because they want them to. Obviously, they have tried for years now to get rid of the straight white man lead curse, as they call it. The fact that only movies with straight white men make a ton of money, and good-looking straight white men typically make a ton of money, and every other movie just seems to struggle, usually. There's exceptions, of course, but on the whole, you want a movie to be successful, you need a Tom Cruise, or you need a Ryan Reynolds, or you need a Hugh Jackman, or you need a Chris Pratt, or you need a John Wick, which I guess he's half, he's a mixed race, but he looks white enough. Yeah,
even Dwayne,
you need somebody like that.
Will sell seats.
Dwayne will do it too, because he's a good-looking guy who is in good shape. He's not a slob, and he's not a mean-spirited person.
No,
right? He's affable, charismatic, and charming. Hollywood has pretended for at least the last 8 years now, probably 10 if we're being honest, that they just can't figure it out. They're just perplexed. Why do you like this movie?
I'm telling you, they're laughing behind the scenes.
No, I agree with you. My point is they keep lying about it, and the market keeps screaming at them what it wants. It wants normal people.
It does.
Well, because they think they can keep socially engineering things. They think that they can keep telling you, oh no, that's not what you want, this is what you really want, and eventually you're gonna go, yeah, that's what I really want. No,
they've never met me
like
before.
It's like I said, nobody goes to a steakhouse and get a soup and go, yeah, that's what I really came here for. No,
that's right. Well, now
came here for a fucking steak.
That's right, you did. Now keep in mind, in Maverick, they were kicking Mitchell's balls quite hard in the beginning of this movie. And making jokes of him. And he quietly took it. And then you know what he did? He showed them.
That's correct. But the reason that works in Maverick is because they're not doing it strictly to offend. They're not doing it to be subversive. They're telling us he needed a hero's journey. And that was his hero's journey.
Well, my cousin was a bit of a bitch, just so you know. I can say that. It's family.
Part of his hero's, but she ended up fucking him in the end, so I think it all worked out.
Fair enough.
Part of the hero's journey for him in this movie is vindication.
I know.
It's the story of vindication for him.
I know she likes taller men. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, they all do, Chester. That's just her. But his character arc in this movie is vindication. He had to prove he could still he was still that guy. He also needed to make amends with Goose's son. Basically his son, effectively, what it sounds like he basically raised him. All of that is them setting up for a hero's journey. When they do it in other movies, that's not what they're doing. It's just humiliation. And it's obvious, because at no point does it get paid off. The best example of that, everybody's favorite Marvel movie, Endgame, with Fat Thor. At no point is there a payoff to that. What's the payoff? He's still fat and miserable at the end. He's still fat and has no confidence at the end.
No,
Where's the payoff?
He literally turns his homeland over to the enemy.
That's correct. So
Unbelievable.
the difference is night and day. When you watch Maverick, and at the beginning he does get kicked around a bit. He gets doubted and he has to prove himself. The point of all of that was so that he could eventually prove himself. That was the point. It wasn't just for a gag, or it wasn't just for some weird agenda bullshit. It was simply to tell a story. And the reason why this movie has such an endearing place, it became an instant American classic. It just did. It just simply did. Look at that score, 99%. That's outrageous.
For the fans, yeah. I do see this Thelma is 99 from the critics. I'm kind of curious what the audience thinks. They like that.
Gosh.
No, the audience liked it.
84. They didn't hate it. All right, we'll take it. But my point is, there's a way to tell those kind of stories. There's a way to take your hero and make him look smaller and lesser and beat him up a little bit and bring him down and deflate their ego or whatever. As long as the point of that is to then let them have their moment in the sun. Let them have their vindication. And that was his story here. It's also the story of Rooster. He's trying to prove himself, is the whole point of his character. He's trying to prove himself both to Maverick and to him. So, my point is, there's ways of doing what they claim they're doing. They're just not doing that. They're full of shit. So, I have seen the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, Chester. Mm-hmm. Me and Adrian did go see it. And the only reason I did is because I wanted this movie since the very first time Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds were in a movie together, which was back in the old X-Men Origins days.
It was bad.
And it was terrible, but I was like, that could have been so much better. That should have been so much, and they both agreed, obviously, because I've been trying to get this movie made for years. So, they finally got it made, and it delivers in every possible conceivable way that you could want it to. The story's a little bit silly and a little bit kind of, whatever. Well, but you're not really there for that.
Deadpool.
You're there for the fact that it's kind of, one, it's a little bit satirical. Obviously, it's Deadpool. Towards the MCU in general. But for Wolverine, it's a send-off for that era of Wolverine. Logan was a send-off for Logan, for the character, right? This is a send-off for Fox. That's the point of this movie.
Yeah.
So, there are certain cameos, I won't spoil them in case anybody wants to see it, that I was not expecting. I was stunned when I saw them. That's what it's
Henry
for.
Cavill's in the movie.
Yes, that one has been spoiled pretty heavily, but there's other ones, Chester, even a bigger one than Henry.
Are we talking about
there's two of them that I would say are bigger than Henry, to be honest.
A certain guy that did a movie called The Art of War?
I don't know. What's The Art of War? There's been a lot of movies named The Art of War. You're going to have to clarify.
Well, I don't want to say his name directly for spoilers. He went to jail for tax evasion?
Yes. There is a gentleman who has been in prison for tax evasion in this movie.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's by the way,
know who that is. So.
Sure.
By the way, the point of him and other characters that are like him that are in this movie, the reason they're in there is to get their ending. It's literally what they say, to get our ending. Because that's the point of this film. This film is the love letter to the Fox, the early days of Marvel movies, all of that. The characters who never really got to shine or really never got to go anywhere, a lot of them, that's what this is for. And because Ryan and Hugh, obviously, that as they literally say at the end of it, this is what made us, right? This era is what made us movie stars. So we have a deep love for it.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about. Marvel is so desperate. Disney is so desperate. They let Ryan Reynolds come in and have full control over a Deadpool movie.
Well.
And according to him in the movie, he said the only thing he wasn't allowed to do was cocaine. They said he could do anything else he wanted, but he can't do drugs.
In the
He said, okay.
theatrical release. We
Right.
have a lot of information. The deal involved them doing whatever they want with the Blu-ray.
Yes. Because that's how desperate they are.
Yeah.
Period. And it's working. Because, like I said, the audiences have said multiple times now, we have 2 examples right here, but there are many others. They want Hollywood to just make movies with movie stars again. Another good example this year was the Bad Boys movie. It made some money. I don't know if it was profitable, but it had a big number on the board.
It did.
Because it had movie stars in it. That's why. People want to see movie stars. We don't want to see ugly gremlins unless they're Danny DeVito. We don't want to see a bunch of people out here who have no talent, who are only there because they click and check the right boxes. Nobody in the world wants to watch that, not even the people who preach about it. You know how I know that? Because those movies don't make any money.
True.
That's how you know it. It's very simple. Did they make money at the market? It's amazing to me how they pretend. All these people keep pretending. They keep playing make-believe. What do you people want? Nobody wanted a Furiosa movie. It could be a great film. No idea. Nobody wanted to see that.
Yeah. Well,
you know what people did want to see? And you eventually gave them? Deadpool and Wolverine in a movie together. That's what they wanted to see.
And in the first weekend, it put $220 million in its pocket.
That's right.
Right?
We have it that.
We do. Now, there's another movie that's made about $33 million so far. So it's probably on its budget, if not over it, because it's a small horror movie. But it's getting really good reviews for being a really solidly made, psychological thriller. It's labeled as horror, but it's not. It's a psychological thriller. And Our Killer. Would you like to guess who the killer in Long Legs is?
Spider-Woman.
My boy, Nick Cage.
Uh-oh.
Dude, he puts out at least one movie a year that's awesome. Have you noticed that? He does some stuff that isn't awesome. I agree. But at least one a year, he puts out something awesome.
I'm back.
He's got castles to pay for. He's a busy man.
He does. He's got a lot of debts to clear. I think he actually got that all caught up, though.
He might have, yeah. But this movie is doing pretty well. You might, if you like psychological thrillers with a touch of supernatural horror, you might like it. So that's another one. Twisters is doing okay. 110 million worldwide.
I'm going to point it out, Chester. I'm just going to point it out. Another lead with 2 white people.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm not saying it's because they're white. I'm saying that the audience wants that. I'm not talking about like racism or anything, whatever other. I'm talking strictly about what the market is showing you. And it keeps showing you that it wants stars. It wants people who look like movie stars. It wants people who have a reason of a certain race. And that seems to be white people.
Well,
it just does. What do you want me to do? I'm supposed to pretend?
Well, people from all over the world, world's throughout history have venerated whiteness. And it's not necessarily the white people themselves directly. It's because the gods were always portrayed as white, light-haired, and light-eyed. And to give you a really good example of the country I'm sitting in now, almost a couple hundred years ago.
I'm dying over there.
Trying just not to. Having a dying. He's having a die.
It's a bad day. But nevertheless, 40 years ago, a white dude with a couple of ships full of white people showed up here in Japan. Now, normally, if you did this unwelcomed, which the Dutch were welcome, but they kept them literally on a little island and they weren't allowed off of it, you would be shot by cannon and murdered. However, they were white people, so the Japanese backed up and let them on land and negotiated with them. You have examples of this all over the world. Like I said, it would be nice if someone would do a deep historical dive into the completeness of this, what I've just said. I know it's true, but we could really use an academic piece on it. The problem is you can't get any funding for that kind of thing because it's talking about whiteness. which is unfortunate because it would really be nice to see some research team dig deep into where exactly that's coming from, how widespread it is, and why, or at least suppositions on why. That would be really really nice. But we can't have that now, can we? So.
Do you remember, Chester, when the sequel trilogy came out in China, and one of the main complaints was, why is everybody ugly?
Yeah. Wow.
Remember that? And why is there so many non-white people? They said, why is there so many non-whites and why is it so ugly? That was one of the main complaints in China, probably the most racist country in the world. Probably. The Han Chinese are vehemently racist.
Oh yeah, they are. They are. And actually, Huan Zhizhe was the comment given to our boy Finn. They didn't care for him very much. But I won't translate that.
And what's this nigga doing in this picture?
Effectively, it was
much, yeah.
it was more vulgar than that. But I probably even should have said that on
This
YouTube.
ugly ass nigga.
But actually, the bigger problem they had was with Rey.
Yeah, she's ugly. She's not pretty. They didn't want her.
Well,
what? Huh?
I can translate this one. Their comment for her was very simple. The boy.
Yeah, plain. Right. She looks like a boy.
Yeah.
Androgynous.
Yeah.
Nothing
boy.
sexual or sexy about her at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. And the best part is how Hollywood, especially these Hollywood execs who know better, have been pretending like they can't figure it out. Why aren't these movies working? Why are people Shut up, you lying sacks of shit. You know why. You know exactly why. Because in the same span that you've been kvetching about the fact that nobody will go see your bullshit, other movies have put out exactly what the audience is demanding, and they've made money. You just don't like it because you hate white men.
Yeah, it's just like these assholes saying, "What? Why don't you don't like it? What?" Yeah.
You know why.
You know why. Yeah. And I bet you they were desperate to have Bacchus balls out. I bet you. There were practices and setups where his balls are out. I guarantee you. We're talking about the French here.
Yep.
Rey means king in Spanish. Well, to be honest with you, Alan, Rey is, if you take its references back, it's mainly referring to God because it's the word for the sun.
Yes, like Ra.
Yeah, Ra.
Same word.
Rey. It's the same thing. It's the sun god. And interestingly enough, it's a dude because the sun is always masculine throughout every culture in the world. And the moon is feminine, right? The Japanese are a bit, modern Japanese are a bit confused because their top goddess Amaterasu is a female and they see her as the rising sun. They're wrong. She's an amalgamation of Venus and the black sun, or the midnight sun, which of course is Saturn. But whatever,
Yeah, you're not allowed to talk about the black sun.
Well, I know, but the Japanese don't have ethos anyway. Hey, well, these people can talk about the black sun all they want.
Hey, I'm a black sun.
Oh, that's true. You are.
At least 3 days a week, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But wow.
I will say this: don't give Disney any money to see it because they're going to make their money anyway on this one, especially. But when it comes out somewhere, it's worth a watch because it's, like I said, it's a love letter. Deadpool and Wolverine it's a love letter, and it's real. They have phenomenal chemistry. It's funny. It's very, very funny. Ryan Reynolds is pretty close to his A game here, and the one who's the funniest, in my opinion, is Hugh. Hugh is hilarious because he's the straight man. Yeah, and if you're doing that right, the straight man should always be the funnier one of the two. If you're doing it right.
How cringy is the Lady Deadpool scene, though?
You don't. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. In fact, she's sexy, Chester. Chester, in this movie,
but
I want you to understand.
Lady Deadpool is ultra wokeism, dude.
I want you. Yeah, but let me explain something to you. First of all, she gets taken out very, very quickly by Wolverine, and second of all, she's literally walks out very, very, very sexually in a very sensual walk, and is just there for basically a big gag, because they took the concept of, Deadpool kills the multiverse, right? That gag.
Right.
But they basically, that's kind of what we're doing here, but the multiverse is represented in Deadpools. So there's just a bunch of different Deadpools that him and Wolverine fight.
Nice.
And it's pretty cool, actually. But she's not pivotal. She's not. It's a complete throwaway scene as far as her. She's literally just there to walk out of basically like a portal and be in a sexy manner. That's pretty much it.
I see.
The rest of it is, there's Chester, in this movie, in a Disney movie, the word retarded is uttered.
Yeah.
In a Disney movie in 2024. And Deadpool calls one of the women a slut. In a movie made by Disney in 2024, there was a slut shaming.
They took away his girlfriend, though, didn't they?
Well, yeah, but spoilers. I don't think this even is a spoiler. Of course, he gets her back at the end, because that's, come on. But yes, they did. They explain what happened. They make it. There's a whole thing, whole character motivation for him, and that's kind of his motivation as a character, is to get her back. It's pretty well done. Like I said, Ryan, you can talk all the shit you want about Ryan's supposed politics or the way he says certain things, his being a little bit of a lip cuck. That's all well and good, and it's all true. But he's still funny, he's still incredibly charming, and he is a phenomenal marketer. He might be the best celebrity marketer of all time. Understand, Ryan Reynolds is a billionaire. He's worth $1 billion.
He does that well. That is true.
Yeah.
Now, I understand, we got 3 movies now, right? Well, 4, technically.
Right.
So I understand why they did this, but what do you guys think overall? Because in the comic books, Deadpool is more like the Memento character. Because of his mutation, it affects his brain cells. He basically can't remember anything, right? He has hallucinations all the time. So him waking up every day, he's not necessarily going to remember yesterday. This is Deadpool in the comics, right? Which is why he's an agent of chaos. He doesn't even really know where he is or what he's doing or why he exists, right? That's why he talks to the universe, right? But I understand why they changed it for the movie. They need some kind of consistency. But I don't know. What do you guys think of that change, though? Does that help the movie or does it hurt it?
Well,
Movies.
Chester, my friend, this third movie, that is kind of the point. So basically, his whole thing is he doesn't matter. Deadpool, he doesn't matter. He wants to matter.
Right.
That's kind of what the story is they're telling. Because Ryan knows Deadpool. He knows that character probably better than anybody even in here. He knows Deadpool very well. So I think he knows that. So what they did is they played it off as he was trying to find basically his purpose. What is he for? He's trying to make himself matter throughout the whole movie. That's his thing. And one of the things that one of the reasons he wants to do that is because he wants the girlfriend back, basically. But yeah, that's his character motivation, is he wants to matter. So it's interesting that you said something about purpose, because that's literally the point of his character in this film, is to find his purpose.
Nice.
And they lay it out very quickly at the beginning, which it's Happy who actually does it, which is interesting. He tells him why he doesn't fit, why he doesn't belong, why he doesn't have purpose, all these things. He lays it out. Happy. Jon Favreau. Iron Man's driver and assistant bodyguard and all that. Yeah. So he tells him why. And basically he says to him, you need this, right? You need to do this. But the difference between you and the Avengers is they don't need to do it for them. They need other people. They need to do it for other people, basically, is the idea. They're needed. You are needy, is basically what he's saying.
So Happy's in the movie. Cameo confirmed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. And basically that's the point that Deadpool is after. That's the question he's trying to answer, is And there's various gags of this, that, and whatever. It's Deadpool of him getting that, and eventually, obviously, he kind of figures it out, and so does Wolverine too. And it's just they did a good job. It's a really good buddy cop superhero movie. There are a lot of multiverse hijinks, but I think the point of this movie is to prep the audience to just abandon the idea of multiverse. Not entirely. They're not just going to walk away from it just yet, but that's where we're going. That's where we're going. Because he makes fun of it repeatedly. And so directly said that it's stupid. That this whole thing's stupid.
It is stupid.
We need to stop it.
Did you see how quickly Bob Iger and Kevin Feige took credit for this movie, though?
Of course they did. Even though, literally, the first credit for a producer, Ryan Reynolds. First credit for a writer, Ryan Reynolds. Pretty sure it was Ryan that made this movie what it was.
And he had to fight tooth and nail. It's sad how much he's had to fight to get these movies done. Because he has. Yep. And this was the biggest fight he had right here. And honestly, he would have lost that. I know he's a big deal. But he ain't no Hugh Jackman as far as Disney is concerned. Hugh lifted his voice and said, "Nah, I agree with Ryan."
He wanted it. I watched an interview, and he actually went to Ryan and was like, "We got to do a movie together." So even after, I think it was after. I don't remember if he said it was before or after Logan. I think he said even after Logan, he went to Ryan because they're friends, right? They're buddies, and he said, "We gotta make this work somehow. Right? We gotta figure because there was all the after Disney bought them, and then before that there was all the rights issues, so they really couldn't make that movie together. They just weren't allowed.
Yeah.
But now that's all sorted out, and you're completely correct. That movie does not get made except Hugh Jackman said, "Yes, I want to do it," and Iger and Feige were like, "All right, what do you need?"
They wanted to woke it up, and they actually forced them to do woke scenes, and they fought it hard, and then in the end they got it out of the cinematic release. But I really think it's not Ryan because clearly they hate Ryan. It's Hugh's voice that made that happen. But Grimlock, you're a comic book guy. What do you think of this whole Deadpool Wolverine thing?
Well, like I said, we're seeing desperation, but at the same time they still haven't learned their lesson.
No.
And this is what I mean. So they put up this movie, right? This is the Hail Mary. So people are clear. This was the Hail Mary, and it's going to connect. So what do they do in the comics? We're killing off Deadpool to replace him with his daughter because they just cannot leave Marvel Now 2015 alone.
Yeah, no. Whilst the success of the movie is out, keep in mind you go to the comic book store. It's a female Deadpool. It's not Deadpool at the exact moment. Same thing.
It's about to be. They haven't. Yeah. So this is now the 10th year in a row they have employed the strategy. I want people to realize that. I'll say it again. This is the 10th year in a row they have employed this strategy because you can go all the way back to the second Avengers movie because that's when it first started, where every Avenger on that team was either dead or replaced. Every last one.
Yeah.
The last Doctor Strange movie, everyone they replaced Doctor Strange with his wife.
That's right.
Guardians of the Galaxy, even Guardians of the Galaxy 3, that team was not replaced in the comics. So they haven't learned a fucking thing.
Right.
And they're not going to, because especially when they gave Kevin Feige not only authority over the movies, they gave him authority over the comics. And people were still defending this dude. Dude should have been fired 2 years ago. But it is what it is. This movie is going to do well. It's probably going to do amazing numbers, and especially after the other shit I'm sure you want to talk about. Everybody, I know all the normies are eating that shit up. And crying, the MCU's back. No, it's not, faggot. Calm down. It's not back. Especially when they have somebody who looks like your local high school custodian who's going to be playing one of the more important roles in your upcoming movies. But we'll get to that. A little salty still.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Salty old dog.
Yeah, well, you should be. But yeah, at least it's looks like a movie to watch. I will be watching it at home though, later when
Yeah.
it comes on a Blu-ray.
Yeah, do that.
I
Do
will be
that.
doing that. But nevertheless, interesting. It's been a very interesting week. There's a lot of
There's one thing
Yeah.
There's only one thing I get interested enough to see live these days, and that's sumo. So
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I know a lot of people like sumo. I watched it when I first met my wife, cultural integration and all. But yeah, no, it's okay.
if I get some money to go see a basho in person, because that is the dream,
Well, you know what
is to
kind
go
of
take in a
killed
basho.
me to sumo? I actually went. It was in Hawaii, oddly enough, not here in Japan. I've met some sumo here too, but it was in Hawaii. They had I don't know what was going on, but the sumo league or whatever it's called brought all their sumos. There were a lot of them to Hawaii on the vacation. How nice! And I was down at the Sheridan on Waikiki Beach having dinner, I think, and it was me and my wife, and then sumos. I honestly don't even know why they let me in. Maybe they thought I was part of the group. But
Well,
but the thing I actually sat and chatted with them, talked with them. I was surprised how many of them spoke English well. That was surprising to me. I expect out of all people, sumo wouldn't speak English, but a lot of them do. But I was chatting with them because at that time, my Japanese was poor. But I had a conversation with them, chatted with them. They were nice guys, actually. Had a laugh. Junko, of course, was there to translate what I needed. However, I walked away with one very glaring thought. I was bigger, stronger, and tougher than everybody in the room at that time. This is 20 years ago. Keep in mind.
see, Kaiju, you missed out on a great opportunity.
I could have made money, huh? Because they're
Yeah.
all small and they don't have the push. Because actually, I was playing around with a few of them, and they were actually doing like pushing. You put your hand on each other's shoulders and you rock back and forth, pushing each other, right? Dude, I'm way stronger than they are.
Well, see, you could have been up there with Akebono.
I could have been. Now, I didn't mean Akimono. He's a big dude. That's a big dude, right?
Yeah, but
I didn't
but
mean
you
him.
know the great thing about Akebono's real name was Chad.
Chad.
We had
Yes.
a Chad.
You did.
The current
It's a literal
Yokozuna
Chad.
is a big son of a bitch too. He's a big old boy.
Yeah, no, there are some.
Yeah.
They didn't have the big mainliners there. They were all the rest of the camp because sumo guys basically live in dormitories, right? And they
Yeah.
take them out for stuff here or there, and I guess this was their Hawaii trip. So all the big ones, the big mainliners weren't there. It was all the rest of the sumo, and they were very nice. But it's just tough for me to support a sport that I felt that I could probably do pretty well in at that time. You know what I
Well,
mean?
you should have all that sponsorship money.
Yeah, well, it's just
They get paid.
Yeah,
They do all right.
I would
They
have
do all
felt
right.
it was disrespectful to the Japanese. That's why I wouldn't do it.
No.
Now I'm not. Now that wouldn't
No,
say that
what if-
now because I'm older and
How
I'm
many
nowhere near
white
what I
dudes
was.
are in sumo?
Yeah, I
That's
know,
why.
but I don't care what other people do, Grimlock.
We know.
Chester, there's even been black ones. God, should that
Oh, yeah.
happen?
Didn't you know the
Yep.
greatest samurai of all time was a black dude who we don't
I
even know
have
his
it under
real
good
name?
authority.
We have
Yeah, good authority that
Oh,
he was
Lord.
the most lethal samurai to
The
ever
best
live.
ever.
Ever.
In Japan, the only notation of him, actual notation in Japan of this supposed Yasuke, was he was kept as a retainer with Nobunaga because he was considered interesting by Nobunaga. But the only accolade he actually has is, and we can't even prove this, right? But the only accolade that is assumed is that when Nobunaga got his head cut off, he stole the head and ran it back to Nobunaga's hometown. That's it.
Yeah.
And like 90% of Japanese historians think it's bullshit story. There's no proof at all. So that's the only actual accolade he might have in Japan that Japanese historians don't think are true. And it's
Well,
not
you see what I-
well, it's not a case of the Japanese being aloof and arrogant, which they can be, right?
No.
No, it's not, but it could be, but it's not, because I've actually listened to some Japanese talk about the controversy in Japanese, and they're not coming off in that manner. They were actually very supportive of it being an interesting point. But then again, they also pointed out that at that time, during the Sengoku Jidai, which is the era of war, is what it translates out to be, because there was a lot of war going on. There were a lot of foreigners running around, doing various things, and this is why when Tokugawa basically killed all the dissenters and took over Japan, and therefore the opening of the Edo Jidai, he basically kicked all the foreigners out. Because he was worried they were having too much influence and he wanted ultimate power. That guy was a power tripper, hardcore. Matter of fact, every 3 years, every young man between, I can't remember the age, but it's a pretty wide gap, were required to go to Edo, which we call Tokyo today, to serve in the military. That's how much of a power freak he was, right? So.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
can't argue with success though.
My point being, there are many foreigner stories you could talk about when it comes to Japan, particularly in that era.
Well, my biggest question that they've yet to answer and won't even let be asked is why did it have to be a foreigner at all? Why couldn't it just be a Japanese guy?
You and I well, a lot of people saying, why isn't Nobunaga or someone who worked for Nobunaga? You said retainer of Nobunaga, which I agree. But me personally, I don't want any samurai whatsoever. What I would like to have seen was just straight up ninja, because it's a freaking ninja game.
Well, don't worry. They're giving you a female ninja, and they're not calling her by her proper title. They're calling her a shinobi because Ubisoft did zero actual research about anything. About anything. They have no concern or care about the Japanese or their culture. It's obviously because if they did, they wouldn't have done things like use Chinese letters in some of the promotional material.
They should have called her something like a Jonin or something like that. But not Shinobi for sure. But that's what I mean. Since the idea, and people seem to forget the concept of Assassin's Creed, and do notice that Ubisoft is one of the biggest video game companies in the world. They are, straight up. And do notice throughout the entire opening ceremony, we had a lot of Ubisoft Assassin's Creed characters running around doing shit. Did you notice that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I get, it's okay. It's not like it's like the Japanese doing Mario stuff. I get it. But Assassin's Creed, the concept of it has been lost. It's a bunch of people in the future using a time travel machine to send your consciousness back into the body of people in the past to change the past. That's the game, actually. It's not this story of this assassin's guild throughout history. That's not what it is. It is, but it isn't. It's about people in the future traveling to the past. It's a sci-fi story, right? And it's very ninja-esque. It's assassins. So from day one, these Assassin's Creed fanboys, which there are a lot of them, have been begging for ninja because it is the ultimate ninja game, dude. And they finally give it to them, but they don't.
Correct. They couldn't help themselves. And here's the cope that they've been doing, right? They've been talking about, well, it's never been historically accurate because
of course not.
The main characters didn't exist. Yeah, exactly. They weren't real people.
So why you change all of a sudden?
Right. Why of a sudden are you using somebody who did actually exist? Yeah. That we know existed at least. He at least existed. Whether he did anything of any importance, we don't know. But he was there.
Well,
so it's such bullshit. It's just such a lie.
But I know, what I really would wish they would have done, because I think they're dead in the water. They've had too many failures in a row. But what I really wish they would have done, instead of making us play your character, why don't we go more RPG? and let me make my own character.
Yeah.
Why don't you do that? That would be cool.
What they used to do in these games, in the last couple, as far as I know, is you could pick a male or a female, right? Like that was, you could just be either male or female. You couldn't customize it at all, which I would prefer too.
Well,
But you would just pick, like in Odyssey, it was Cassandra or Alexios, and these were effectively the same character with different names. But I don't know why this one decided we needed an actual dual protagonist instead of just let me pick.
My hands up.
Yeah.
My hands up.
Yep.
You're supposed to say, "Go ahead, Chester. I pick you."
Go ahead, Chester.
Okay. All right. The reason is because in Odyssey, they was really the first time they had dropped that, right? And in Odyssey, you could play either or, but they're obviously keeping statistics on you, which I don't know if that's legal, but clearly they are because they were complaining and making all kind of noise that everyone was playing the dude. Now I don't know how they knew that, but yet they did it. And then the second game, the Valhalla game or the Viking one, they tried to force you to use the female more. And now in this game, you have no choice. You have to play the female. It's their natural progression because they want you to play the female. Damn it!
I have no problem if they want to make a chick assassin, a chick shinobi. I have no problem if that's what they wanted to do and just make that game. But have the fucking balls to do it then, right? And make her awesome. Why can't she just be Japanese Lara Croft? Why can't she just be cool?
Right. Yeah. But actually,
this idea that chicks they don't sell chick leads in games. That's ridiculous. Lara Croft, Samus, right. They sell like crazy. Yeah.
My favorite one was the Gangs of New York Assassin's Creed. That was a good one. I like that one. Yeah. It was a good one. I like that one. But
you mean Syndicate that was in London, not New York?
Shut up. It was the Gangs of New York. It's my world. I live in it.
It was Gangs of London, 100%. That's what it was.
Now
that one had Karl Marx in it, Chester. Remember that?
Oh yeah, that's true. It did. But now I do want to, because I got to get off here and get on because I'm so busy. But I'm going to kind of wrap it up here. I do want to kind of make a couple of last points of this picture I've left up here. One, it's clearly taking the Last Supper and putting the Feast of Bacchus on it, right? Yep. And of course, the reason they're doing that is because a lot of, it's not true, but a lot of Christian haters say that the Council of Nicaea, I'm sorry, I brought it up again, was basically ensconcing Bacchus as Jesus, and Bacchus was Jesus. That's what they tried. Now they're not wrong. They're not right. It's Mithras. It's not Bacchus at all. Right. Matter of fact, the modern day Jesus is an amalgamation of an actual dude named Yeshua, Horace Ray, and of course the Mistra religion, which it was a skeleton of it, and of course the king of Petra, Isis. It's an amalgamation, but Bacchus has nothing to do with it. But it is kind of a modern thing with all these Christian haters. They love to just call Jesus Bacchus. That's why they're doing this. Right? That's why this is sitting here in your face. And also keep in mind with it that the director who put on this little debacle, and the New York Times, the Washington Post, all the standard guilty folk that you would expect are all saying, well, there's no evidence that it's supposed to be the Last Supper, There's no evidence whatsoever. Nothing is confirmed. Now, can you believe they're actually saying that?
They literally named it that.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It was called the Last Supper on the Seine, I think, was the name of it.
The name of it.
Something like that.
But yet there's no evidence that it actually meant to represent the Last Supper, though.
Yeah.
Did I do the gay thing right?
You're crazy.
Did I do a good job?
Yep.
Thank you, Grimlock. Go ahead, Thunder.
You're crazy, Chester, and you're a bigot if you don't agree with them. Understand? Yeah.
Yep. Don't believe your eyes. Don't believe what they tell you until it's inconvenient. It's kind of like Hezbollah finally got a rocket through the Iron Dome to land in a northern Israeli town, which I'm sure they were initially elated about, jumping up and down. But the problem is that rocket landed in the middle of a soccer field when a bunch of kids were practicing and killed a bunch of kids. Yeah.
Yep.
It's bad PR, you see. And now they're
Yep.
denying, no, we didn't shoot that rocket. It wasn't us. Okay.
Here's what I know. I know that there's going to be a lot more troubles ahead. Turkey's over here rattling sabers. Turkey's over here rattling sabers about Israel. Israel's over here. Israeli authorities are over here implying that they're going to do to Erdogan, which was done to Saddam Hussein. Like, the sabers are being rattled very, very, very hard.
Am I allowed to say I wouldn't mind that?
I mean, you're allowed to say it. Whether you should say it publicly is the difference. But my point is that there will always be wars and rumors of wars, as Jesus Christ said.
Yep.
And that's where we're at. We're in the wars, rumors of wars phase. Hopefully not of the end of the world, but maybe. We kind of do have it coming. And that's just it's just going to continue. And people, the sad thing is, if somehow, by the grace of Almighty God, Trump does get reelected, I don't even think he's going to be able to slow it down anymore. I think they've poured so much gas on these fires that I don't know if we put them out with just words. And the American people have absolutely no desire to fight any more wars for these countries. None.
No.
Zero.
And Trump needs to shut down a lot of government agencies. And really, probably one of the most successful things he could do during a term, if he gets it, which he should get it. But who knows what kind of shenanigans they'll be up to. But what he really needs to do is what he and many of the other Republicans are talking about: mass deportation. That would be a big major success if he could pull that off. Mass deportation, because you're starting to see some reversal in Europe. They're starting to do deportation now, right?
Well, because they're scared.
They're terrified, as they should be, because this past month the Muslims have been causing big time trouble, dude.
No, Muslims never. They're not known for it. They're always peaceful and lovable.
No, it is the religion of peace. That's true. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, I don't buy that. This is pure bigotry. YouTube, don't fall for it. The Muslims have never done anything wrong ever in the history of the world.
Ever.
It's all lies.
Grimlock
all
said it. Kick him off.
No, in actuality, Islam is the worst ideology to ever exist. It has killed and mutilated and brutalized more people than anything ever, and it's not close.
Yeah, and most of those people will call themselves Muslims today because they have no choice.
Correct. Yeah. Yes, because it's either that or die. So.
Yeah, that's the greatest harm they do is to other Muslims. Keep that in mind. Anyway, I do need to go. Grimlock.
Chester needs to go.
I do.
He says.
Grimlock, tell him something about the love of Bacchus. Go ahead.
The love of Bacchus, that's above my pay grade.
That's fair.
Wait, you're getting paid? Wait a minute.
Dude, you have to have the black representation. Did you guys notice we're over 1,000 subs? Did you notice that?
We did it. Finally, YouTube let us finally do it.
It's like last
Holy
week.
crap!
I don't know exactly how many, but it says 1K, whatever that means. I don't know exactly what it is. But they forgot about us. They ignored us. We've been ignored. Thank goodness. Only took 6 years. It was 6 or 7 years. You can do it too. Yeah.
It's good. They finally permitted us to cross a threshold we've been sitting at for almost a decade.
Well,
so that's
they have bigger fires to put out, I think, than us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're over 1,000, which means we could be what is it? Monetization? As if I would do that anyway. I don't need your money, YouTube. You can keep it.
Don't want it. Your blood money.
No.
Doesn't need
YouTube.
it. He has a whole sex mountain. Why does he need YouTube money?
He
I don't
already
need
has
YouTube
the sex
money.
mountain. What does he need your money for?
That's right. I don't need it. Don't need it. Of course, don't let my wife hear me say that.
Oh, Chester, I keep saying all the time, I've told my wife this, if I was single, I would probably just have like a nice RV and live in that and just drive about and
Oh,
just
yeah.
be a nomad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why I would have a house or any of it. What would I need it for? What do I have it for my wife? I don't need it personally. I think most men could live very, very Spartan lives,
Oh, sure.
very ascetic lives, if it wasn't for the fact of the Womans.
We don't need
The
much.
Womans.
We don't need much.
Yeah, very simple creatures.
If I wasn't married, if I wasn't trapped by an Asian woman, I would be back in America somewhere. I would have a 1967 Pontiac Firebird. Yes, I would.
Excellent. That's a good choice.
Thank you very much. I'd have me a truck as well because you need that, and I'd be
You need a truck. Yeah.
I'd be homesteading, dude. That's what I'd be doing.
Yeah. It should be. And we're very simple creatures. We don't require much. Like the pine tree, we require very little maintenance.
That's true.
Kind of handle it ourselves.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I'd probably have more money.
Probably. Or even if you didn't have more in total, you'd have more free.
That's
Right?
true.
Because you'd have less bills, less
I
overhead.
don't have any money, to be honest. I have like a $1 in my wallet in coins, maybe. Yeah,
Right.
I don't have money.
Deeply poor. The deep poor in the deep south of
Extremely
Japan.
poor. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true, Grimlock. I don't have any money at all. Zero.
His wife has it all.
Yeah,
That's
she
what
has
he's
it.
saying.
That's right.
Do you even get the big piece of chicken?
No, well, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
His
not-
wife is a tiny little Asian woman, so
Well, it
that makes
is,
sense.
and she always cooks way too much, and I never eat everything she puts on my plate. I know how bad I am. But that's all right. Leftovers, good for lunch. No, she gave me a credit card. So I have one of those. It's a gold card. It's interesting how it turns out. She has the platinum card. I don't.
I know.
Fascinating how that works.
Isn't it interesting? Yeah.
Well,
So
Chester,
so you're
Hi.
literally so Chester is literally George Jetson during the Jetsons intro.
Yeah. It's definitely me. It's definitely me. If I need money, I ask the wife. That's true. Anyway,
she's
He
living
takes
it up
up-
over
he
there.
takes up the wallet.
She got her a giant Celtic of a giant white man. So just figure what I'm implying there. Who also makes enough money to just give her money all the time. She won. She won the Asian woman lottery.
She
Is what
did.
she did.
She did. But to be fair, though, I didn't know this at the time until I moved over here. Her family is well set. Let's put it that
They're
way.
doing all right.
Yeah,
They're doing all right.
she's not.
Do they have a
not
sex mountain?
No, but they own
Wow.
they own quite a few mountains actually. She's not a poor girl, not at all. I wouldn't call them rich, I mean, and they're also
Upper
like
middle class.
yeah, and they are in this area from back in the 19th century. Their ancestor, the Aso ancestor, was literally dispatched here to this area of Japan to open up post offices by the emperor himself. They actually have pictures in the house of it
That's cool.
up on the wall. So her family is, not poor. Of course, good luck finding poor people in Japan anyway.
They're not. They're not
Have
common.
Have
They're
fun
not
with that. They're not. And the ones who are usually doing it in a hermit way, meaning intentionally.
Right.
The priest, dude, one of the best jobs you can have in Japan, be a priest. They are rich, dude. Those guys have money.
They're doing all right.
Oh my.
Doing all right.
But I gotta
All right,
go.
I'm gonna
What are
move
you
Japan.
doing?
We'll
I
move to
don't know.
Japan, become a priest.
I'm kind of like devilish. I wouldn't mind being that dude who collects those two pieces of wood together during a sumo match.
Oh yeah.
But that's
Well, you know
all
what
he
that's
does?
for. Do you know what that's for? That of course
Even spears.
that's a charcoaled wood, meaning it's
Yeah.
an oven forged wood that makes it like glass and it makes that good clacking sound. But you know
Yep.
what that actually originally is coming from is Japan, Asia in general is very much community first. Where in the West we're very Roman, so I need to be capable and independent, therefore my community benefits, right? That's
Right.
our take, right? But
Mhm.
these guys over here are completely communities first. You are not first. Your community is, and they have many things to keep the community safe. And one of those is the honcho, whoever the honcho is at the time, assigns a person. It rotates around that during winter months. When people are using heaters in their house, walks around the street of the village or the town or the city or wherever, and they clack those wooden blocks together, and it's a reminder, a kind of a subconscious psychological reminder to all the people in the area to be careful about fire safety.
Mm.
It's interesting.
Interesting.
Now, why is it attached to the sumos? I don't know that, but I know what it is. It's a fire safety sounding thingy.
Well, it sounds amazing.
It does.
It has really cool sound. I really think at this point that's the only reason. Just because it sounds
No,
cool. They're like, listen, we're not going to get rid of this. We're going to keep this tradition because people
right.
like it. All
Well,
right.
you have to understand, sumo today is looked on as a sport from foreigners, but for the Japanese, it is now and has always been a religious
It's culture.
observation or observance. Sorry, it's a
Yep.
religious ceremony. It's highly religious. So everything you see them doing, everything they're doing is very, very connected to the religious ceremony of it.
The religion that none of them actually believe in because
Or
Japan's
even
a
really
weird place.
know these days. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah.
They have this whole religious structure. They have great reverence for their religion and the ceremonies and things. They don't believe it.
No,
Not a single one. I don't
but
think
I
there's a
mean,
single drop of faith in any of it.
but the salt and the water and the way they do their stance, the muashi and everything, it's all has religious connotation, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But I respect it. I respect that level of cultural discipline to not abandon your traditions just because. I respect that. It's good. It's healthy for a society. We in the West have this idea that constant progression is what's necessary, and that's a very Western thought, that very French thought, to be honest.
Mm.
It's just not true. Humanity does best when we have a very slow progression, when things take time and we respect what came before, cherish what came before, and evolve slowly through the generations. That is why the East has survived. Its culture has survived for so long. It's because they don't just throw things away just to throw them away, unless you're communist, but that's a different conversation. But even still, like, certain things will be forever over there because that's just the way they, like you said, community first. Part of the community is the culture,
Mm.
cultural norms and things.
It's true.
So it's a shame if Japan's losing itself, because the West lost itself a long time ago
Right.
because we didn't safeguard it. So
Well,
I hope the Japanese people are smart enough to realize they have to protect it.
we'll see if they wake up. The mistake the Asians have made is they allowed Western philosophy to be implemented in smaller portions, but it's enough. It's invading it's a mind virus
And
when it
it's
comes to
not
that.
compatible with
No,
them,
it's not.
especially. They're not made for it.
They're too it's too fragile. And I think
Yeah.
this is many reasons why throughout history Japan has closed its borders. It's not just the Edo Jidai era. They've done it many times. It's because their
Yep.
authority, the actual smart people that make decisions, they know that their culture is too fragile to deal with such direct interaction. And we're seeing that come to fruition these days. But anyway, take us out of here, Thunder.
Let's get out of here, Chester. I have a very simple one that I just wrote the other day. Virtue is never passive. Passion requires service. Mercy requires sacrifice. And there is one other part. We were talking when I was thinking of this here, this little scene you have up right now. I was thinking of this. This came into my mind. They do not hide that which brings them power and pride. The reason they do these things in public is because it brings them power and pride. If it did not, they wouldn't do them. We know that because the things that do not, the more vicious parts of these pagan rituals, or whatever you want to call pagan's the wrong word, occultic rituals that they do, they don't do those in public. They do everything they can to hide those from the people
Right.
because they don't. That doesn't bring them pride, power. It brings them shame, so they hide it. So I don't know, little poem I came up with watching this because that's exactly what it is. They only do this in public because it brings them power and pride. That's it.
That's true.
They even
It's a
call it
spell.
pride.
It's a spell.
Yeah.
Yeah, but do keep in mind, as I say, namaste. If you're really interested to see some of the things they do in private, go study this Key of Solomon. Hmm.
Yeah, it's
Later.
not good. Like I said, mercy requires sacrifice.